Well, I suppose I'll start us off then, eh? Welcome to the Bleeding Edge, brought to you this Sunday evening by Canned Yam and Billy the Mad Gotan. I have Thanos snapped my face into oblivion. No topics tonight. If I am sorry, I'm munching on some fish for my supper, my dinner. Nearly finished, so I shouldn't talk while eating, but apologies. Right, tonight's topics are resiliency, stick-it-to-the-iveness. I'm guessing I'd actually look up what you mean by that. Is it like when you say like conscious? No, wait, like corrosive.
You want answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth! You can't handle the truth!
Perfections, ooh, Sin City, Montana, Coke Boy, ooh, we run the city, homie tryna keep up, ooh, they going broke, I'll finish your career, ooh, get a rope,
Warning, 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 warning.
dope money, ooh,
That Montega,
in the spot, getting dropped, ooh,
that's hard labor.
in the club, popping bottles,
Yeah, we blowing that sour.
handful of real niggas,
Rest of these niggas cowards.
how you want it,
How you want it?
hands gun or the knife,
Soon as your man see the barrel,
he gon' run for his life,
bullets flying.
bullets flying.
Right,
There we
where were
go.
we? There he is.
Yes. Red Pill Baron, D-Man, what's up, Billy? Polska Bob. Hello,
D-Man.
hello, everyone. Thank you for joining me and Billy today. This is the Bleeding Edge. And sorry I cut you off.
That's
Are
okay.
you,
Intros need to be done.
yes, welcome. Yes, we got the, I get flamed for this, but I can't, the great Billy, the goat, the Billy goat, the mad Gotan.
Yeah, Billy the Mad Gotan.
Goten. What is the race of Thanos? Is Thanos is he from a specific planet?
I don't know. He's meant to be a Titan, isn't he?
Can be,
He's from the planet Ribena Berry.
He does look like a berry. He looks like Veruca Salt's dad. Like if Veruca Salt's dad went to the factory with him. Sorry, bad joke. Yeah, welcome. Everybody's gonna show up as they are able. So we appreciate everybody for showing up right now. Yeah, we are probably gonna talk. I'm sorry to say this, guys, but we're probably gonna talk about Will Smith again. Just, I just like to set. I just want to set everybody up for that. I don't want anybody to be expecting anything new because I said it. Everybody's been saying it that knows anything, and it's just there's still people out there that believe that this is fake. There's still people out there that believe that certain things like it's funny, Thanos is Billy's avatar because there's certain things that are just inevitable that are desperately being ran away from, and it's like you can't escape. Everybody's gonna end up like Iron Man in the end of spoiler alert, but yeah, like just a spoiler alert for this stream. We probably will end up talking about things involving like Will Smith and all of this stuff because everybody thinks that they have like a unique take on it as well. I've noticed. There's plenty of comedians who have come out. Well, every comedian, it seems, has talked about it. It's funny, not that many I don't see that many actors that have been like really vocal about it, except maybe Denzel and a few of the people that were there. But it's like every comedian is using this as material, you know. I myself, I've had like a lot of, or I've said my fair share on it, and some of my videos have gone like, or have like caught some algorithm or something, um, or some autoplay function or something, because it just seems like somebody's searching Chris Rock or Will Smith and just letting autoplay play tons of videos. No matter how many videos that people watch, though, I still feel like they're missing a huge part about uh, this monumental event that's happened. Events back. But yeah, and I think it just shows like people's lack of attention span. It's almost like everybody is like they just got slapped, but they didn't realize that they got slapped, or they're like blissfully unaware. And Billy and I talked about Billy and I and Wind, and I think maybe Rifle were talking backstage last week about how there's just a lot of people, even even like near the manosphere, adjacent to the manosphere, that are still have this like ideology towards things that happen in the like in the blue pill world, so to speak. It's like I don't know if you recognize this, Billy, but it's like they can't appreciate anything if as long as it's tainted by this like blue pill reality. Like I'll give you an example. Like let's say you're watching a short, and then it's like it's something that you're interested in, woodworking or skydiving or extreme, yeah, something that just like is thrilling or entertaining, or even like something really creative, and then you see that the guy has like a girlfriend, and then you're just like, simp, you know. It's just like it's almost like we've been like programmed to not appreciate it, certain things to its full extent, because we're always looking for this we're always kind of nitpicking and nagging. I think that was last week's topic too. It was like the manosphere has almost become more, not toxic, but just inserting itself the kind of the way that like a girlfriend does when we're not getting attention. And it's kind of like, I thought it's supposed to be a blessing, the freedom of like kind of trying to work on yourself and be and focus on like creating just like a little this peace, since the manosphere supposes that women are supposed to be the peace, and that they're a man's peace, and that they're failing. But it seems like whenever I post videos that are maybe trying to talk about that subject, I get way more male pushback.
Yes. I thought you were going to like mainly speak about the sort of blue pill there, but then you kind of tailed off into the red pill. Well, where to take what angle of attack to tackle this? I theorize that the red pill is mainly dealing with external locus of control, external inputs, rather than the internal self-drive, self-improvement that is proclaimed. I would call that more sort of being more black-pilled. Now, I know there are people out there with their own definitions, but that's how I look at it. So, if the red pill is more concerned about what other people are doing, then you can see how they got a bit of like an invested interest in what's happening around them. And then there's this control aspect. Where is the control? So the red pill, what other people are doing around the red pill becomes a problem or a concern, because it's like the control is out of their hands, and they're at the mercy of what the rest of the red pills or blue pill world are doing.
Hmm. They're
Um,
engaged. They're engaged with the subject
yeah, but
matter of other
to
people's
take,
lives. Yeah.
but to sort of
Sorry,
rewind. Hey, Wind, welcome in.
Wind, welcome.
sorry about that. I'm a little bit late.
No, it's cool. Go ahead, Bill.
I was taking my dog out for a walk.
Good, good.
Likely story.
Um, but to take it a little bit back, what you said earlier about so you've got the blue pills who are basically without thought. They're in a comatose state. They're letting the world tell them who they are. So is the red pill to an extent, but even more so with the blue pill. So the blue pill is essentially asleep in a dream. They're a dreamer, and they want their fantasy not to be shattered. They want to continue dreaming.
But the problem is, eventually, unless they're really lucky, their fantasy is going to get shattered eventually.
Well, yes. I mean, and in some ways, like as much as people like to sort of criticize the blue pill, I mean, we have to kind of give them credit. If their dream sort of happens to work out, I mean, is that really necessarily a bad thing? I mean, they got lucky in a way.
You got lucky.
Yeah. And this, unfortunately, can be a bit like triggering, I suppose, for some red pillars, because maybe deep down they wish they could also be a dreamer. So
that's what I didn't mean to kind of veer off. I was just thinking like in terms of like making you. There's a lot of people in the red pill who have this who do kind of like what we've talked about before. Like they do behave. They're not themselves blue pill, but they have this behavior where if they see somebody talking about something that is another that is like that is like being valued or is being sought after, they kind of try to pull you down and prevent you from doing it.
No, there's a message Savage Knock is saying, I don't know who Megatron is. He talking about me because I had a Megatron. Right. Okay. I'm going to turn off my Bluetooth headset because I think that is causing my mic issues, and I'm going to be on loudspeaker. So if it echoes, let me know.
Oh, I didn't see Corey came in too. Hello, Corey. And we're waiting for him to fix it up. Oh,
is there any echoing? Any echoes? Any problems? Does it sound better?
It does. It does.
Okay, well, we'll
continue.
Continue then. If there's a problem, let me know if it's echoing or feedbacking or something.
Definitely. Proceed.
Yes. Sorry for the interruption.
Mm-hmm. Okay, let's see. Where do we leave off? Yeah. That's just what I noticed, and then it may be just a result of it. It may just be like just because a blue pill person can sometimes say a red pill thing. It's and vice versa. So I just feel like it's not getting away from thinking about the topic more abstract and stuff. It may just be, and this is like kind of one of the topics of the stream I think today is like you're going to make mistakes no matter what pill you decide to come from, and I think it's all about committing to it and owning up to those mistakes that make it so that a person can grow, and that's the only way that they can grow. And then all other forms of perceived growth are all kind of simulated or in this matrix of the other coming from an external source, like you were saying. It's all
you're tempting me to explain my theory.
Please, come on.
Go. So I got it. I've actually made it into a clinical study. So I'm planning to look at it from a clinical sort of perspective. And so the blue pill, the red pill, the black pill, these are each coping strategies. No one pill is better than the other. So you can't really look down at the blue pill with condemnation. Condemnation? With
condemnation.
That's right. That's the one. Not condensation. Um,
You
I
can't
mean, like I
let
said earlier,
the
a
blue
bit
pill
worse,
collect
worse
that.
I mean,
than cancer serum.
you can, but
Well, the way I been looking at it is generally, loosely speaking, we're brought into the world as a blue pill. Um, and this would be more like an infantile way of looking at things. And as we do already describe, they're dreamers, they are in denial, they have a skewed way of looking at life. They're all on the ups. Everything is always positive, typically, until disaster happens. And so, if you can get by with being a blue pill, then fantastic. Just like a child, if a child can get by, if a child can go through life remaining as a child, it probably will do so. There's no point in growing up. Growing up becomes a necessity and an adaptation to increasing challenges in life. So now we can see, like, so when things get tricky for a blue pill or a child, it's time to start to mature, start to grow up. In comes the red pill, and I would describe this more as an adolescence type of stage, where a sense of independence hasn't quite been developed. They're not really a full blown or full fledged adult yet. So there's still so there's actually quite a lot of similarities between the blue pill in that sense. They're both externally based, and they're both dependent, like dependent on the world around them to give them a sense of value, identity, esteem, etc. It's just the red pill is a little bit more emotionally matured than the blue, but they're still in that the younger years of their maturing. And then you go over to the black pill, and this is where I'd see the splits going on, where now there is a bit of introspection. Now there is a more formulated sense of self. This would be the more adult being um, that has now matured, in, like maybe like an elder or something like that.
the thing
Chronic in the
is,
house.
what I've seen, I've
Think.
seen a split in the black pill. There's ones that have basically, actually, there's three. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for interrupting. But I see. I mean, I don't know. There's more splits, but I know three major splits in a black pill. There's one that's nihilistic, one that's knowledgeable, and the one that basically is basically end it all, be it all, end it all, be everything, be darned. You know, those are the three major splits that I kind of observe. If you want to consider that black pill, you know.
Yeah. I mean, we do see splits. So and there's also splits in the other colors or the other camps as well. So there is a blue pill split and there is a red pill split, and yeah, there are splits in the
You
black
guys
pill.
know I don't know if you guys hear this a lot from people, but they say like, "Oh man, if I knew what I knew now in high school, I feel like I could have like had a better experience."
No,
Like
you
I think
wouldn't.
in that sense, I know it's all that's almost like a dream, and I'm like almost
It
like
is.
a fantasy, that people want to relive. But I think there's a mixture of
There's
different ideologies embedded
there's
in that, and when we see people in a red pill rage, it's almost like they're growing so fast. They're encountering so many different reality bursting,
experiences.
bubble
Right,
bursting
it's like
experiences.
puberty.
It's like puberty
And
now.
for me, it's like if I grew up with the knowledge that I had now, I can't say that it would be better. I can't say that it would be better or
It's
worse.
circumstantial luck.
It's
That's
circumstances.
Now the trouble with that, lots of people share that. Now imagine an infant saying, "I wish I had the knowledge of the elders." It's like, okay, fine, you'd be a very mature youngster. However, as a
At what
result or
cost?
consequence, at what cost you miss out on your childhood.
It's like
So in
Right.
some
you'll
ways,
leave the real world to escape into
right?
the almost the
So
simulated world of an adult. Like
yeah,
the diminishing returns of experience of different stimulus. Like think about an older person, a person that's beyond the pale, still trying to behave like an adolescent. Think of an example of that. That's kind of the same way that a child
Like
would wish to grow up too fast, you know.
like
And
buying
it's
toys at your 40s.
yeah, stuff
Right.
like that, or party like the partying. Eventually, you have to grow up and move on, and
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
um,
And there's also you
mhm.
miss out on the appreciation for it as well, because like what's a common thing that red pills and black pills sort of say, that they're glad they went MGTOW sort of thing. So
Mhm.
if because they had in their leading up to it, they've been through that blue pill era, they've been through that growing process, so they have an appreciation and understand how challenging it was. Like someone now, but the thing is now in more recent modern times, we do get people occasionally who have kind of skipped out on the blue pill, maybe because they've got like a red pill MGTOW parent to save them the,
Trouble of
the
going through
trouble, the
going through
complications.
the
Yeah,
pain.
right. So they, all intents and purposes, this person has missed out on that blue pill. They might be aware of other people getting divorces and dragged through the courts and things like that, but they don't really appreciate just how much it can shape a person.
They see it, but they see it, but they have a hard time grasping how this person is getting mad at the stuff that they've already grew up with.
Right. Yeah. It could make it hard for them to have like a friendship relationship, a mutual understanding for one another.
Right.
Yeah.
And for me, it's like people. I actually kicked this idea around. If I could go through it again with the knowledge that I had, with the knowledge that I have today, I wouldn't change a damn. I couldn't. I couldn't feasibly change anything. You know.
Right, Wayne, but we have
That's
to
I
true.
mean,
like. I feel like I don't want to get hung up on that specific example. It's more or less the phenomenon that we're noticing now, where people like. I don't know if you were listening before, but I was talking about the Will Smith thing. Like they're trying to move past it. There's such a rush to move past this and forget about it, that people who are dealing with it and processing it publicly, like speaking about it, are almost like that person that reminds them, man, if I would have known what I knew now, kind of that it's still relevant, but it's the important thing is that no one really has the ability to do the work. So years from now, when this is a a distant trauma for everybody, I feel like there'll be people that wish they would have paid closer attention, to what happened. I feel like there's no everybody processing this as this very surface level, and it's just
Very
not
emotional
very.
thinking as well. I mean, to
Mhm.
say I wish I knew what I did now, however it was phrased,
yeah,
is is what we talk about. You talk about what you regret.
there's a like say
Right.
yeah, it's like I wish I was a little bit taller. I wish I was a baller. I wish I had a girl
I wish.
that looked good. I would call her. I wish I had a cat and a hat and a bat and a 6'4" Impala.
Yeah. I mean, it kind of it's those are like sentiments of wishing to return back to a dream, like an idealization. I wish I could have made different choices in my past so that I'm not here now suffering. So I have regret now. So you're stuck in this. It basically ends up being like trauma. So you're stuck holding on to an idealization, an impossibility. It's impossible for it to happen. You've got no time machine, so you can't exactly change the past. What are you going to do about it now? And if you're saying, if you're talking about how you wish you could go back and things were different, then you're not actually thinking pragmatically and making better choices. You're stuck in the past.
Mhm.
This is where you would have to go through the grieving process now. Let those sentiments and ideas go. It's never going to happen, and take stock of what you have currently and what you can do with it.
Yeah, I think there's
It's
a
more
difference between
for a
the
mindset.
sentiment. There's a difference between the sentiment and then the like the understanding, or like the moral of the story or something like that. It is very close to that fantasy, but it's more rooted in like something that you would teach to it's like it's a huge learning moment. There was that clip that just was released about Jada's Jada was like was filming Will Smith in his house, and he got upset about that, and you can kind of see on his face that he's like suffering, and it's very disrespectful. And it's like for people that want to dismiss this as it's just a regular everyday occurrence, it kind of it's almost like they're wishing it on everybody else, or they're saying like this is just a fact of life. And
Yeah.
I guess what I'm more concerned with is that people are almost trying to avoid this as if it's gossip or rumor mill
Okay, so
or drama, but
what's
it
going
really
on?
isn't. Yeah.
What's going on? So they're downplaying it, they're dismissing it, yeah, because there's an element of if you analyze it or dissect it or invest into understanding it and trying to learn from it, it starts to bring up the anxieties of within the other people. So this is partly why they say like this is no big deal. We're going to rush through it, even though it's got nothing like Will Smith and Jada. It has nothing to do with anyone apart from those two and whatever kind of tight network, like the lover, August, I think his name is, and maybe their son, and so it's got nothing to do with like, us, for example, or the rest of the world. But discussing it makes people have to start questioning their own circumstances, and that's where they're getting uncomfortable. Because let's say you're married now, you might be thinking, is my wife like that? Is my wife going to do something like this?
Has your wife
it's
already
acting
done
on those
something like that?
insecurities? And this is partly why they're like, well, let's just gloss over
It's
it.
that same. It's the
Normal.
same. It's the fear of missing out. Like, how many times could I have slapped or been slapped? And I'm here now. I'm witnessing it now. I'm seeing everything happen, and I want to erase this from the. I want to strike this from the record. And it's almost like now they empathize with a red pill rage. Now they're ready to listen to what a black pill has to say as opposed to just addressing the world as it is. It's almost like, hey, stop talking with, be careful associating with people, don't gossip, and don't be too invested into the daily motions. And it's almost like now is the time to work. Now is the time to forget about this surface level talk. When before, that's all people really cared about. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's almost like they've completely switched onto a different frequency, and now it's now they're shaming people who are now comfortable in the reality, because now everything is aligned with kind of exposing what it is that is wrong with society. And if you are deeply invested in society, you are almost, like I said, you are Thanos snapped into being held accountable. There's no way to escape it anymore. Now that stuff like this is happening in the public.
It also shows that if people are like flipping their opinions on a dime, there's no consistency. That means there's no integrity. That means they don't really have a singular sense of self, because it means their sense of self fluctuates and it shifts and moves around. It's malleable depending on the need and circumstance. So these are people. I mean, the topic, as you listed out, is like resilience. These aren't people who are resilient. Their way of being resilient is to morph and reconfigure or recalibrate depending on the circumstance. So this isn't really like standing your ground or sticking to your guns or something like that. These are people who likely coming from an emotional mindset, a younger, immature mindset. So as a result, because they're younger, they haven't formulated a sense of self. It hasn't been cemented in properly, and this is partly why it's flexible and changing. And so if they carry on with this kind of mentality, they'll be stuck there. They'll never really have a chance to stick to one opinion. Like, another part will be because they don't want to admit to being wrong. So this would be another reason why they keep changing their answers or opinions. Whereas someone who's actually committed, who is resilient, has a solidified sense of self, will be okay with being wrong. They'll understand where the mistake was, but they'll have ownership of those previous notions or ideas. They won't use denial, pretend like, oh, I never said that at all. I've always been on whatever side of the argument. A wishy-washy, type of character.
I see that it's more the wishy-washiness. I think comes from like it's almost like a Puritan attitude towards like
Yeah, because they don't want to admit to being
yeah,
wrong.
it's
So they have,
it is obsessed with like cleanliness of an idea. It's not even about right or wrong because this, like you said, this has real no real bearing. If how you thought about this actually dictated your life trajectory, then there would be
There's a
it'd be a right or a wrong. But because this is such because it is so useless, you get to see where how people really address something that they have
yeah. I
that
mean,
they feel equal that they feel like equal to like when it comes in
yeah,
terms of the conversation.
it ties into their sense of security. So someone who it generally feels insecure won't like the idea of being wrong or proven wrong or held accountable. So they'll be hypocritical, there'll be contradictions, and they'll probably be oblivious to it happening because they're operating on that emotional prerogative. So that's partly why they'll change on a dime. In the morning they might say one thing, and in the afternoon say the totally opposite, and not realize the contradiction. Whereas someone who is secure in their identity or sense of security um, won't be phased by being wrong because they have
And
that
it's not to say that if you
security
lived a somewhat
standard.
of a it's not to say if you live somewhat of a pure life that now you have to go and experiment with obscure things. It's just when you see other people do it, it's more of an emotional reaction to now change to from being a person that is focused on like their own self improvement to now being a some sort of like a lifestyle coach or just seeing people do and maybe it exists on like a spectrum, but just there's way more people now that are trying to manipulate other people into thinking this reasoned out rational non nat like unnatural way of thinking like
Yeah, I mean, that's the alarming part.
mhm.
It reflects on a societal level where people, as a kind of broad brush speaking, where they are, and the majority of people are in that they're externally based. So it's not so much that, so they're not thinking for themselves or making even their own judgments. They're basically parroting what other people are doing. They're looking at other people and they see, oh, okay, this is how I need to be. I need to be like how they tell or how they're acting. So they mimic and they um, emulate what other people are doing to sort of artificially get by. And so what we have are people who are with a lack of sense of self, not thinking for themselves, not making decisions or judgments for themselves, and instead we start getting a hive mind, and they become um, clones of one another because they're basically copying one another. They don't want to be with a fear of abandonment or a fear to their chances of survival by being ostracized. Because now, if you're a free thinker, if you've got individualism, if you're thinking for yourself, you're looked at as a threat or a danger to something. Stay away from that guy or girl or whoever. Like,
it basically society forcing its will upon you, trying to make
that's
you.
right. Yeah, yeah. And if you haven't got a sense of self to defend you, to stand up and say like, look, I don't care what other people are thinking or saying. I'm going to make my own choices. then you're gonna
Mhm.
comply. You're gonna fall in line. You're gonna be like that. You're gonna be assimilated as if this is, you guys watch Star Trek, the Borg?
Assimilate.
You will be
Assimilate.
assimilated into the hive. And this is what's going on. There are, minority doesn't even capture it well enough. I mean, this fractions of percentage of actual individual people with their own sense of self and personality. The vast majority of the world now is basically assimilated into this hive mind. And there's other reasons why this would be happening, because if if you don't if you got a person who, let's say you got let's say an alien landed on the planet, um their chances of survival will be like, well, either they do it alone, or they follow the herd, and most likely
Exactly.
they're going to follow the herd, so they'll blend in, and by blending in they kind of disappear. So this is why we get the sort of analogy like the Walking Dead or the soulless people, because their fear of survive they got the
And
fear of living is so
that's my
great.
thing. Like if you pay attention, I think it's I think to sum it up, that the resiliency is almost from the perspective of, and I do consider myself an NPC to others. Everybody is in a game, everybody's in a game, but they all want to play other people than who they are. And so they're escaping the original skill set that they have, and that they've been given. They're looking for something else. And so when it comes to resiliency and stick-to-itiveness, when you do the hard work, other people see that, and they see, and now it's all of a sudden time to talk about something that is, or it is relaxed. It's almost like break time or lunchtime, and people are still in that work mindset because they really haven't done a lot. They've maybe tried to make it look as though a lot of work has been done. So now when it's time to relax and talk about something that maybe is a place where you can showcase a little bit extra of what you think and be an individual, people fall into the hive mind, almost like resetting the game or trying to cheat around having to actually grind out a unique and individual idea.
Yeah, you got a couple of themes going on there with what you're saying.
Mhm.
um it becomes, um and in an overall kind of sense, it becomes an issue about lying to thyself. So as long as you
Right.
can kind of lie to yourself and convince yourself that you're somebody and that you're an individual and all this sort of stuff, then you can kind of self-delude and be kind of okay. And then with those lies, it then becomes an issue about, well, appearance then. So uh we need to sort of mimic again, back to the mimic, I suppose, but
So,
we need to put on this stage show as if we're a free thinker, as if we're um, independent, but really it's a performance in order to lie to themselves that that they're all right. And even though they might have a bit of a downtime and chill out kind of thing, maybe try to express themselves,
Mhm.
it doesn't the real world, that the world is still turning kind of thing. It doesn't this would be like object concept. Just because you close your eyes and put your fingers in your ears doesn't mean it's gone away. The underlying problems and issues are still there, and if anything, we're ignoring it or deflecting or distractions. um, these problems get worse and worse, which makes it even harder and harder to actually one day confront and acknowledge, because by the time they do, it's like Pandora's box has been unleashed.
and
And
it's
then
like then
they,
you're over. It's overwhelming in many cases.
yeah,
Usually,
exactly. And then
usually
brings
I
us
think
to like
people,
what
and
you were saying
it's
about
doubly
being the
so now
dreamer.
because it manifests itself as a person, like a Pandora's box is like a once in a lifetime disastrous thing. Typically it was something that we would see in the news, or we would hear about a distant family member or something that just like affects our world in this way. But since everything is so processed, it's also like meaningless. This Pandora, we don't see it unless we're willing to, as it were, like pull the wool over, pull the like remove the wool
Yeah,
from our own, that we've already pulled over it, just to protect ourselves from like witnessing the cosmic horror of what's happening, like
exactly.
in our own way.
Right, denial's a massive protector. I mean, it's
River.
arguably like the best form of protection, live in denial and delusion. But the issue with the Pandora's box is because these types of people have continually tried to stay in a infantile manner. They're avoiding the idea of having to grow up as a full-fledged adult. You know, so when they discover, or if they discover, there's actually a Pandora, they got skeletons in their closet or something like that. They haven't actually got the tools to deal with it. So in some ways, Pandora's box might not actually be as daunting as it sounds if they just kind of knuckled down and broke the problem down into smaller steps or manageable chunks and then dealt with it. But because they're like a child, essentially, they're just sort of, oh no, sod that. And either they're going to like double down, go further into their delusion, or maybe they might go doomer gloomer and just not bother and just give up. And then it's like learned helplessness or victimhood. And then they take it basically, they make bad decisions because, again, they're youngsters, mentally speaking. So they're not going to exactly be wise and do what's right, which is to confront, do the hard things. They're going to take the easy route, which might be like maybe to start a fight with someone, get caught up in drama, maybe sink into addiction and become an alcoholic or something.
Or they learn helplessness, like
Helplessness.
saying,
Yeah, so there's
just
plenty of
simply admitting you don't understand something, like that it doesn't make sense to you, and that
right.
there's no reason to delve into it. And that's what you were talking about earlier. The fear of being wrong, I
Right.
think, is like comes with a lack of resiliency. It's like, you know that at some point you're not going to make it out of the situation alive, right?
Right.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then so it's just like, instead of being diplomatic and being and realizing that it's not really about you, it's almost like just try to conquer as many different things as you can and try to create the biggest impact. Is
Yeah.
like a word that's being used a lot lately in this climate. It almost seems like impact is just, it's this folder on your computer. It's like this meaningless thing. It's this thing that you just fill with data in the hopes that it has some sort of in the hopes that it creates something in the future, but there's no guarantee to that.
One thing,
Go
one
ahead.
thing. Sorry about that. One thing that, as y'all know, I do watch a lot of anime, and this is going to come to the thing about trying to accomplish as much as you possibly can. One thing that I'm waiting for in anime, because there's always like humans versus demons, humans versus whatever. One thing that I'm waiting for is when the main protagonist encounters that one demon that comes to the battlefield, comes to the planned battlefield with a bottle of wine and a snifter glass, and which would confuse the main character. And I see this in my head, like, you came with a sword, I came with wine and glasses.
What up, JR?
Yeah, I came with wine and glasses. Does it look like I battle? Does it look like I intend to do battle? And he explains the whole thing is humans live such a short lifestyle, such a short lifespan. But their accomplishments can live on through ages. And he explains the bottle of wine that he's drinking was made in this century, long before you were born. And the whole explanation, the whole life story of that wine maker, the whole story of the winemaker, the wine company. And the thing is, like, we as humans, we have a long lifespan to us, but to many other creatures, our lifespans are short-lived. And if we somehow were to get a sentient creature that sees the fact that we have such a short lifespan, but we create so much and we leave behind so much, the fact is, like, that would show the author, first off, any anime personnel any anime creator would have to be red pilled to see that, you know, would have to be red pilled to see that we have a short lifespan. We leave behind so much in our lives. We take a lot of things to the grave. But the thing is like, there will never be a time where everything will be acknowledged, you know. Like I said, everything that we do will get skipped over by somebody. But the thing is, like, you have to understand that you're human. You can't take it with you when you go, and you can't leave everything outside the grave. You know? So you can come to the like I said, would you come to the battlefield with a sword or a bottle of wine? It doesn't matter. Your exit is how you enter the battlefield. It's how your entrance to life is how you exit, is pretty much how you exit, how you would like to exit life. Like cycles of the day. You wake up in the morning, begrudgingly you wake up in the morning and you go to sleep. As an adult. As a kid, you wake up begrudgingly and you go to sleep begrudgingly. And as you get older, you look forward to sleep. That's we as human beings are a progressive species, but at the same time, we are regressive and stationary, depending on how you live your life. Now, you can progress through your life and basically with your body, but leave your mind behind in this infantile state. Or you can have your mind progress with your body and learn how to best work with your body throughout the day, the day exercises. But one thing is always certain. You're not guaranteed tomorrow, and you're never going to get out of life alive. Yeah, what is that? Is that Black Desert? What's that? What
It's an
anime is
image
that?
from Black. This is AOT.
Tight.
Yeah.
Tight.
I don't know. Is that the person on the left, like Aaron Yeager?
I'm not in the more mainstream animes, you know.
Totally
But
cool.
why go with the mainstream when I got literally have all this selection at my fingertips?
Right. Yeah, but getting back to the topic, it's kind of I think you know, kind of building on top of your point, a lot of people kind of, I guess, stick to sort of, I guess, mainstream ways of getting validation, and that stream has long since been tainted and is filled with, you know, bacteria and things that'll make it so that, you know, it's almost like you mutate or something. And that's growth in this day and age, is that you're transformed into this grotesque.
Well, this is the thing, right? So when you said, like, look, you can't get out of life alive, and this is what they're trying to cheat. This is what they're trying. We're dealing with fear, so they're scared. They're scared of death, and in being scared of death, they're also scared of life because they're so closely linked. We can't have one without the other. So these are people who are scared to live. They're scared in the sense of, to live as in, like, by their own steam, standing on their own 2 feet. This is why they're holding on to their childhood in fear of getting older, because if you're getting older, that means you're going to die. So So they're kind of like mentally checking out of reality in order to cheat death. Death can't touch them if they're not here. Um, Again, going back to that the Walking Dead idea, and so a lot of like a couple of the main drives of the human organism is survival and fear. And control is probably another one, and these are behind a lot of people's thoughts and actions and behaviors and lifestyles. And then I've forgotten the exact word that you use there, Yam, or validation. So people are looking for validation. This is the currency. People talk about success. So and then it's like, well, what do we define as success? What does it mean to certain people? And again, the what it means is this is the bartering. What do I need to do? What do I need to? What kind of currency do I need in order to buy my way out of life? To to um, to pay the ferryman, so then I can avoid being taken away to the afterlife in a way. So this idea of currency comes under transactional. What do I need to do in order to get a sense of, well, typically it would be like to get a sense of love, but it'd
Yeah,
be love.
I
Love would
think
be a
I think
nice
the
way of saying,
survival is that thing that's, I guess, easier to understand, that people then, instead of addressing the fear and trying to make sense of that, it's almost like it's almost like survival is like, okay, if I do this, I can survive. Whereas if I do this, it still doesn't mitigate the amount of the what could happen, unknown circumstances that could happen, and the like that it's too much to tend with. You know, if I confront myself, if you face yourself and face your fears, it's almost like the world is too open, it
this is
seems, and there's too many repetitive life paths and decisions to make for oneself, so someone just collapses into, okay, what am I going to do, how am I going to survive the situation, as
yeah.
opposed to like picking
Well,
something and sticking with it.
and they tend to make the bad choices because when you face your fear, what are you facing really? Is it something you're scared of, or is it ultimately you're facing yourself? You have to come to terms with the fears that you yourself have in order to overcome them. But if you haven't got a sense of self there to begin with, then what are you facing? You're facing an empty void where
Well,
you're
that sense of self has been bullied out of people. You see, everyone is so sensitive to
right.
drama. They're so unwilling
So
to
there's a
really,
fear. So
really.
there's a,
Yeah,
yeah,
sorry, yeah.
there's a
Yeah, but
fear.
it warrants being said, because I hate the positivity toward that attitude. This whole, why bother, speaking honestly about something when it's just going to cause problems. It's like you can't avoid these types of problems.
Right.
Yeah.
And but I mean, if a sense of self has been bullied out of people, like so, typically that would be like a someone is being conditioned to have self shame, to feel ashamed of who they are, um, and so they've got like an inner critic or their self hate, and so when it comes to now facing a challenge in life, they have to look at a sense of self which they feel ashamed of. So essentially, they're afraid of getting to know fundamentally who they actually are. They don't want to be who they are. So going back to this, so instead with the currency of validation and transactions, um, I said earlier that it's about you're trying to you do things, you work tasks in order to get a reward of love, but really it's a reward of a sense of self esteem. So people are they want their bucket list or they want their accolades and credentials and achievements and successes to artificially give them a sense of self, because the authentic sense of self is something they're ashamed of. So these are people who want to be someone else. They don't want to be who they are. But you can't escape who you are. It's like your shadow. So it's always like in the back of their mind. It's always following them. And this uh, and it's a bit of a Shakespearean tragedy, because the one thing that will cure them is to recognize that your shadow is part of you, instead of the boogeyman coming after you. So they're kind of like they're running away. This would be the denial and delusion. They're running away from the very thing that will actually bring them harmony and peace and integrity and a good life for all intents and purposes. So they're kind of effed up in that. So it's for them. It's a forever life is like a race. I guess it kind of goes back to what you're saying, Win, about like the anime idea, where they're so eager to try and finish life or rush through life, they miss the beauty and have appreciation for, taking life more casually and enjoying it.
Right.
It's like they're so fearful of the future that they're trying to they're like, just get it over and done with. I want to get to the end as soon as possible so that I can actually
There,
die. Put me
there's
out of
another,
my misery.
there's another saying that I use, and they've tried, like they try to find, especially men, they try to look for places where they can be somewhat comfortable outside of the Western world. And I've always had this impression: you're racing the sun, and and it just comes up behind you again. And it's an old Pink Floyd lyric: racing the sun for it to come up behind you again.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's like eventually the Western world's going to come back upon you, whether you like it or not. It's either going to come back and, oh crap, we got we started this war, and now we need American citizens back. And even though you've denounced your citizenship, they still got your behind. They'll pull some strings to get you back, whether you like it or not. You know.
Yeah.
And it's like, or the Western world comes to the country, or either to screw it up or to liberate. And I use the term loosely, liberate the opposite gender.
Yeah, I mean,
And then your grandchildren got to pay for it.
that's a very that's an important message that you're saying there. Really, if people need to really take on board what you just said, and that it's we see that the problem of like coming like karma coming back to bite you on the butt kind of thing. We see that on many levels.
Sorry for cutting out.
Like,
All right,
for example, someone
where did I leave off? Because I was on a bit of a rant.
well, we're going over Wynn's life lesson, which I think is an important one for people to acknowledge or to take on board.
Which one, that you can't get out of life alive thing?
No, he made another one about like you're chasing the sun, but as you're chasing the sun, it kind of it circles around and kind of comes up or sneaks up from behind and kind of catches you.
Well, sorry. That's what I was saying. Like the fear of meandering, of being in the wasteland, of post-apocalyptic attitude, like and this like the like the fear of irony, being the butt end of a joke, being persecuted against. It's all like such an archaic way of. I feel like having fears about that kind of stuff is just it's just a very like it just reminds me of how I used to think like when I was younger, and just being like all this stuff is really meaningless. Finding yourself is way more important than
Definitely.
Yeah. But what do I know? You know, it was like, what is anybody? How can anybody really get through to somebody once they have that fear set in place?
Well,
You know.
in a kind of, I don't want to sound too simplistic or insensitive, but we tend to have fear, and it's kind of like a human nature. You can't really fault people for it. It's kind of like a natural response. But fear normally is for things that person feels like is without which is beyond their control. They can't control it, so they're frightened of it. But the thing is like if it's out of your control, then do you really need to be? You've got no say in the matter. So
Mhm.
how can you really be fearful of it?
All
It's
you can
not
do is work on
your
work on
yeah,
their resiliency. That's all you
resilience
can
or
really
your
do.
response to it. How are you going? How is it? How are you going? How are you going to react is a bit of an impulsive way of looking at it, but respond
Sure.
to this
It's
stimuli, and
yeah.
so really, um, the fit the authentic fear you should have is fear of the things that you are in control of. But then, if you are in control of it, then you should realize that although you're frightened and you've got fear in you, you can do something about it. You don't have to
Mm,
be scared. And it's kind of like this is what bravery means. Bravery doesn't mean no fear. Bravery means you
It's
have
overcoming
fear.
it.
Yes, you have fear, but you take control of it or you overcome it. You
mhm.
deal with it. So really,
And
this idea.
that's what I find funny about people that try to warn against and try to get you on the same fearful frequency that they are because everybody leads a life, right? I mean, and they either run the ball or they get past the ball at some point. You know, that's and that Kingy MGTOW has said that once. You know, he's a MGTOW channel, but he says like, you know, I run the ball in my own life type of thing. Doesn't mean he's an entrepreneur. Doesn't mean he's a survivalist. It doesn't mean that he's a rager. He's not nihilistic, you know. But it's just like when you think about it, there's only two ways to really carry the ball to really make progress. And if you are complaining that you're being like this whole NFL player pay soundbite that everybody's been that was people were talking about a few months ago, and similarly like fighter pay and stuff like that. When you start complaining that you're being treated poorly and you try to get people on this fear frequency of treat everybody better, you also have to take into consideration how much can I take and how much could I take if I got stronger, if I got more resilient, if I stuck to what was being happened. You know, do I really need to step on somebody in order to get that promotion kind of thing? And I think sometimes the answer is yes, but people try to avoid it. But what I'm really talking about is the don't rock the boat attitude when it comes to um, just social situations. You know, it's like, oh, be careful, don't trust people, don't make friends because they can stab you in the back. That is
Family,
definitely not a
your own family can stab you in the
that's but
back.
that's what
Complete
I think.
another
I think people.
strangers can stab you in the back.
I think no. When my point I said that I think instead of addressing the world as it is and developing acquaintanceships with people and being and understanding the surface level, people want to treat others like family members right off of the bat. And
Right.
so based on your trauma or the way you were raised, you're either humble or you're compassionate or you're just like arrogant and you wish that the world would treat you as though you were loved by them, you know. Whereas like if you treat somebody whereas like there's a possibility I can hate you, there's a small chance that you would become closer than if you stuck to this like familial quasi respectful attitude. But then behind their backs, it's like you acted the same way that you would you say the same exact things that you would in front of them. You're just censoring yourself in front of them. I just think that that's very inauthentic way of putting
Well,
it. You know,
the,
why put yourself through the torture? That's what it is to me in terms of social or having a meaningful conversation with somebody. Retracting who you are to me it's just like very torturous. It's like why are we having this conversation? Why are we afraid of what somebody else has to think of us? You know, just be who you are.
right. So it taps into the core of how do you feel about yourself? Are you okay with who you are, or do you feel some level of shame or like disgrace? And this is what's going on with the external world. Is so they try and, as you described, they they love bomb you essentially into this kind of family, close, tight relationship. You just met this person, sort of thing, and they're already calling you brother, for example, or whatever. Maybe not just saying brother, but I mean, you get that vibe that hey, this is I've already just met you, and you're sharing personal details and you're getting personal things out of me. I'm not. This is crossing boundaries and breaking boundaries. And what's going on here is that the other person, the external, most likely is a weak person, and they fear being alone. So this is why they're pulling you and saying, "Hey, we're
Well, it's typically sorry to cut you off. It's always the people who are alone that people those that are fearful of being alone preach to tell them not to associate with others, to keep
yeah,
them in a place where they're solitary. And it is a
because,
comfortable position for someone who's been
yeah,
focused on work. But the seeing that, like what the Will Smith conversation, seeing one express themselves in that way was like fully removed from the outcome is
but
such a thing is a person who surrounds themselves with that familial
there's a
fear.
lot of
They're like, so there's boundaries being crossed there that is
right.
just like very very
And
bad, very bad.
and there's mirrors and reflections going on. So if you've got someone who's very dependent on other people around them for their sense of security, and they encounter someone who's independent, who is a loner, um, that triggers anxiety in the dependent person, because it's kind of like
They
how
can't control the independent person.
right, but it also it reflects back on them, because it makes them wonder, if I end up being independent, how on earth is this independent person managing? They seem to be okay. I couldn't be like that. If I was in their shoes, I'd be going insane or something like that. So they fear. So they're trying to recruit this independent person to give them company, so they no longer are independent. Now this
Instead
independent
of learning them, instead of
dependent.
learning from them,
Sorry.
Most of real instead of learning from him, he said. But
instead of learning from
most of most of speech that I utter from my mouth is definitely creates like a isolating effect, because it's just like if I spend most of the time not talking to people, whatever I say, it ends up pretty much like I feel like people are unable to create a distance between somebody else based on their speech, and I think that's like one of the core principles of language is to
Well,
like define your identity, but
a
it's just like
statue, like you know a alarms go off, so they try to destabilize the person who's independent, so that now they're kind of like a crab in a bucket. They're sharing in the same kind of problems.
mhm.
Now this dependent person doesn't feel so alone, because other people are struggling just like they are. Um, but if they can't recruit the independent person, because obviously the independent has got their integrity and not going to allow it. They got rock solid boundaries.
and that's where the stay away from this person. He's bad news.
Exactly. So they
Mhm.
have to
Comes from.
reframe it and
It's
be
like
like,
it's like
oh,
well, bad news is only things that you're not prepared for that hit you. But
right,
if you're prepared to expect the worst, bad news is just the thing that comes before the good news, or vice versa. It's just
Bad news is like I said,
it's stimuli that you welcome as a human being. You say like, okay, I want good news, and then I want I also expect bad news. But then like to see people just be so averse to experiencing any sort of like cold, like what Tico does. People who hate on Tico, I think, is like it's such a me less. I think of myself mostly, but me less so. But people who think about, I just think I'm an easy target. But people who like go after Tico, it's like I feel like they don't understand that it's it's reflecting back on them whenever they criticize a person who doesn't really have anything. They can't be stopped by just like just mere like just speech. You know, like it's a person who just constantly is facing adversity to tell them that like you're speaking out of turn or you need
Well,
to respect so and so.
you've all heard that kind of thing where it's like, hey, if you're trying to hurt someone, then fundamentally all you're doing is really hurting yourself. It's a little bit like that as well. So even
But
though
you really can't hurt. There's just some people that are just a higher power level just to be like flippant. There's just some people that you can't hurt, and then to think that everything is so equanimous, like equanimous or something like whatever in this in America. Everyone understands that it's all about what people think about you, and so if they can get you on that frequency, they feel like they can fight you. But they don't realize that there's like strategic ways that you can maneuver out of that ambush. Because they try to ambush you with everybody else's opinions, and they try to say, you seem like a person that wants to do better in life, and this is what I would say because you just this is the advice I would give. It is, and it's just like that's their passive aggressive way of just trying to dominate you.
and there's with what you just said, if we kind of like underpin it with the idea of control as well, it further adds to what you're saying.
Wind?
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
basically it's like like I said, if you're able not to get sucked into the whole stay away from this person, the bad news, you're able to grow a significant amount.
Well, and I just think about like whenever somebody talks crap about like when somebody talks crap about like a family member or another person in the manosphere, it's like people trust their opinion. They're like, okay,
right,
don't talk to them. All right, I'll just stay here on your channel
instead of doing their own introspective research.
Exactly.
Everybody wants to look for like a review to a life experience that they could live. But they would rather just get the top tens. Mm-hmm.
And it's the funny thing is about it is I've heard there's so like I said, when look at me and your situation, Yam, like where we were told not to interact with two people, but for me is like, if you tell me not to do something, there had better be a darn good reason not to do something. If you say, hey, don't do this because there's a high chance that you're going to die or lose a limb or die in a most excruciatingly painful fashion.
Like a plane crash.
Like a plane crash. Like there's a high chance that you're gonna go crash and it's not because this equipment is messed up, or this truck has two tires that are close to be blown. Don't take this truck or this plane.
That's different than telling somebody like, what would the reverse be? Because that's different than saying like, don't talk to this person, right? Because people socialize it with like, if you talk to this person, you're a sum of who you associate with them. I don't respect.
If you talk to this person is under investigation, under federal investigation for these crimes. Keep your distance and let these people investigate. This person is under investigation for doing this. Keep your distance from this person. Let the investigators do this. You don't want to get dragged up into this investigation. Okay, that's relatively reasonable. But when it's just he's just bad news, that's not an excuse for me That's not a valid reason. That's an excuse. That is pointless. You're telling me not to interact with somebody. I mean, heck, I was told not to interact with this person, interact certain people because they're a criminal.
So what you're
They're
talking
much
about sort of reminds me of a cult. That
right.
like in the event that like there is criminal activity compartmentalized in the cult, don't talk to those who you assume are innocent. You know, because everybody in the cult is complicit in whatever could be happening,
I mean,
and so
all life is
don't ever reveal anything to an innocent mind. Always
from
keep
what I
things corrupted.
right. Like I
Mhm.
said, the way I see life going around in your day-to-day life dealing with the public as dealing with many miniature cults. Humanity ain't nothing but a bunch of miniature cults wrapped in one big in a whole bunch of big major cults. You know, it's cult miniature cults within cults. Church, you go to church, you go into a building of a cult. You interact with the people, you're dealing with cults within a cult. You know, that's all it is a cult within a cult.
Yeah, and the thing with cults are like individualism is a bad thing, you know. So they want them to be mindless, not thinking, not independent at all.
Individualism is a disease. People like cults outcast. It's different if an individual rises to the top in a
But,
to develops it become like takes a leadership position, but
well,
it's shunned. They're
I
shunned.
mean,
It's
you could
bad
say
juju.
you could argue like individualism, being able to think independently for yourself, is is like an immune system. It protects you. So what you're saying before about like don't listen to this person, don't speak to that person, stay away from them. It can work in the other way and be just as damaging. So you could, for
Sure,
example,
sure.
let's say you're looking for a lady.
Brainwash doctrines.
Yeah, let's say you're looking for a lady friend, and I go, hey, hey, my girl's got a sister, or my girl's got a friend. I vouch for her. And is that a good idea or a bad idea? In today's world, it's a bad idea.
That's a good question.
But
Mhm.
but there's me sort of like promoting and saying like, hey, no, no, I vouch for so and so. You two would make a cute couple or something like that. Um, you need to be able to exercise your own critical thinking, independent thinking, and make your own mind up, your own judgment. Another example of how you could in a in a opposite or staying away from someone like so this would be like a um positive not really a validation or justification to interact with someone. You could say like, hey, I had a good therapist. You're looking for a therapist, let me recommend you my therapist, or I heard of a therapist that's done good work with someone. Just because they did good work with someone else doesn't mean they're going to do good work with you. They might end up messing you up even more.
Right?
I mean, especially like let's say you're having and you got PTSD PTSD problems, anxieties, and I'm like, yeah, my therapist is a marriage counselor or deals with divorce. I mean, is that really going to be helping you with your PTSD?
Not very well, not very
No.
much. Is that
You
it
know,
doesn't help.
and I go, oh, look, they got all these star reviews. They're on Google. Look them up. They've got a high ranking. They're number 2 in the country or something like that.
Mhm.
It doesn't mean it's going to be a guarantee.
Beneficial.
Yeah, it's not a guarantee it's going to be beneficial for you. So, you're setting yourself up for a little bit of a disaster if you're not careful, because you go into that situation, like with this girlfriend analogy, with the expectation, you know, so you're going in there with a biased view. You're already assuming before you even met the person, you're assuming that there's going to be beneficial, there's going to be a positive out of it. So there's a good chance you'll probably try, at least at first, you're going to dismiss any red flags that might come up.
Also, yes, also with the amount of information that's out there, I think people go further than assuming into thinking that they have some overarching understanding. You see this with any sort of philosophy or cult or organization. Once they get deeply ingrained with that whole like the validation that they get, it's almost like every bit of information is valuable, and a person who seems like they're developing their own resources to deal with the world, they are in desperate need, as is everybody else in the cult. So it's like it propagates itself, it perpetuates itself almost to the point where not only are people curiously disrupting the boundaries of individuals in our day in society nowadays, it's almost as though they're so much a part of a hive mind that they feel personally responsible. It's not like as if somebody's talking through them. It's like that's their agency, is to affect things in the negative, is to like create more dependency.
Yeah,
Because it allows for them to thrive
and
in
you
an
know what else
environment.
happens as well, which makes it even, which I don't know, like a cherry on the top. But we as throughout this kind of live stream this evening, in a gist kind of way, we're talking about the sort of the problem, the problems cascading. How I know, people, they're not thinking for themselves. They got self-hate. They got a lot of fear. They got issues of control. They basically go for this hive mind, and with all of this and breaking boundaries and all. So what kind of chance do they have of
Yeah, in a
actually?
hive mind, a drone never really talks to the queen. It's all hormonal, right? Like there is no dissemination of information in a hive mind. It's all like an assumed. People will have that. I feel like they have that mixed around, that like a person who's an independent, who's individual, who's autonomous. They don't just spend time mulling about their own faculties. They go out, they get information from the environment. Whereas
Yeah.
like a hive mind implies that, but it's the opposite. It's just that
Well,
they're everything that they do is based on a set of doctrines. Like
yeah,
don't
yeah. Uh,
talk to so and so. Only always report back to.
yeah, yeah. And there's something I wanted to include with that is the level of aggression and confrontation, because that starts to rear its ugly head and becomes a focal point. It becomes a motivation for these people. Because someone who is independent, they're individual, they've got their own sense of self, will come to realize they don't really need aggression. It's a
Yeah,
bit of
they
a
address. I feel like if your life is managed, then you kind of can address things as they come up, as
right.
opposed to aggression is carpe diem, seize the
Yeah,
day type of like you must assert your dominance in a situation.
yeah. It kind of goes hand in hand with things like fear,
For
because
the horde, for the hive. Like
right.
it's like I sacrifice myself to look like an a-hole.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it takes different like passive aggression and different kind of ways it's manifested and expressed. But the general theme of the aggression, hate, anger, resentment, contentment, disdain, um, and then looking for conflict and battle and fights and drama, it all comes from that kind of lack of sense of self, because um, because of the instability or a sense of insecurity. You can see why something like aggression is looked at as a handy tool to have around, because if we go tribalistic, if you're impulsively going around day by day in
Mm.
fear of your survival, you need a little bit of aggression. I mean, this is a positive way of having a bit of aggression, to like ward off danger or to pursue a hunt or something like that. It's kind of like a focused, under control, positive benefit of aggression. But the thing is, when there isn't the control or the critical awareness, then it's an emotional type of aggression, which isn't beneficial, which is detrimental, is damaging to not just the person but to those around them. Now compare that with someone who is an individual, independent. They've got a sense of self. They've got their own resilience. They've got their integrity and things like that. Then they've got a strong sense of security. Like they're comfortable. They've got stability. So they can self-soothe. They can reassure themselves. They've got like iron tight boundaries. So there is no real threat to survival because it's under control, and um, their position isn't being compromised. They're not. They can afford to take things more leisurely, and to contemplate, and to use higher brain function because they're not in that impulsive survivalistic mode. I mean,
I feel like what is it about social media that makes it that you, as a person who's in a survival mindset, you assume that everybody's on your wavelength. Like, isn't it supposed to be that okay, I'm interacting with social media. This is outside of everything that I believe, everything that I feel deeply. This is truly experiencing somebody else. But the way that I don't know, maybe it's the work of a higher power
no, this
that's
is the
making it so that
no, this is the
yeah,
work
what
of psychosis. It's it's
right. People who feel like they're
like,
an elevated people who feel like they're elevated from society.
it's this is it's a I don't know if it's like a Freudian type of thing, but it's this idea subconsciously that if I agree with people on social media and we're all like-minded, we won't call it a hive mind, even though it is, but we're all like-minded and we all share something, we're all brethrens and comrades, then this kind of translates to like my security is improved, my sense of security is improved. But in the process, they lose their individualism. So they basically become, like we were saying earlier, like clones of one another. They 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 fuse in mesh, and they share a community identity, a group status. So it's no longer, oh, hello, my name is Yam, or hello, my name is Wind, or hello, my name is Billy. It's hello, we are Red Pill. We
You
are the Red.
represent.
You know,
Yeah.
we lose our
But,
individualism, and we
yeah.
adopt the group identity. And this is like crowd psychology, mob gang culture.
Yeah, pretty much like Emotep,
You know,
Emotep.
and then cult behavior. So we can see how it all kind of connects together. Now, anyone in that kind of position of the hive mind, good luck to them to now try and break away and have their independence, to have their individualism.
Because it
Now,
backfires violently.
it's well, I mean, they would have to be very brave
Hold on.
and need a lot of support to break away and to start, because bear in mind that this person who's going to leave the hive mind has the mental faculties of a toddler or as a infant. It hasn't had life experience living independently until this moment they're going to break free. So the world is going to most likely be a terrifying, it was already a terrifying place before. This is partly why they're part of the hive mind, for their protection. But now they're on their own and they want to be, now they want to grow up and wear the big boy pants or whatever.
Yeah. You hear that shaming all the time, like mom's basement, or you are gonna end up like your mentality is gonna end up costing you in the long run. And it's just like, whoa, are you like my accountant or
Well, this is
my moral guru or something? It's like it's weird that people come
now
from such
it's
a
my turn to bring it back to Will Smith.
Yeah.
So this is the situation Will Smith is finding himself in, and typically a lot of guys as well, where unless there's like what Win was saying earlier about the blue pill, unless there's some sort of disaster that forces a person, like ejects them out of the hive, out of the blue pill, they're not going to do it otherwise. But if they're ejected for whatever reason, like Jada's wife doing what she's done, now Will, for the first time in his life, is going to realize, crikey, I have to grow up. I have to be a real kind of man about this. And I've never been a man before. I don't know what his age is, but is he around 50? I'm guessing. Imagine being 50 years old and suddenly finding out it's like, damn it, I've been living like a child in this immature kind of fashion for the majority of my life, and now at my biological age of 50, I'm going to have to know what it means to be resilient, to know what it means to think for myself and make my own decisions for me instead of letting other people make them on my behalf. So it's a monumental challenge. I mean, I would describe it as the fight of your life.
Tico in the house.
What up?
Yo,
What's up?
Yo,
Sorry I'm
we're
late.
just kind of
Y'all started early. No, y'all
well.
started. Oh no.
we're
We
going.
did well. We started in an indeterminate time, but I don't know. We kind of I don't know how does Billy and Win feel about the panel? Do we get like Tico just got here? Tico, what's up? Well, I don't know. I was like 1 hour and 30. I was like, okay, we've gotten this far, but then like now Tico shows up. I mean, so we could, I don't know, subject people to more.
Well, look, we haven't even
Um,
on the discipline, and I don't know what you mean.
that's the last. Yeah, that's the last topic.
I need somebody to shake things up, you know.
What's this second
Yeah.
topic you got? Stick to it. Iveness.
Iveness. Yeah,
What's
stick-to-it-iveness. Stick-to-it-iveness is like,
commitment?
yeah.
Determination?
I think it's like a colloquial thing for commitment. You know, it may less so commitment maybe to people sounds more like a relationship thing.
That would actually
Loyalty?
stick-to-itiveness would actually fall under discipline. Because you'd
Mhm.
have to have the discipline to actually have the stick-to-itiveness.
Mhm. Yeah, like where people abandon most of
Yeah.
their discipline.
That
That's where
requires fortitude.
stick-to-itiveness comes
That
in.
requires fortitude, and that requires discipline too. To have fortitude, the mental fortitude to deal with it basically requires discipline to a certain extent.
I think a precondition to what you just said there would be, first of all, you need a bit of ambition, a goal.
Yeah, like
You need
there's no reason to talk about politics or drama if you have no ambition, because then I feel like you're just sitting there lethargically, like, oh, who cares? This is lame. Let's move on. You know, but then you see people doing it. You see people like who have the ability to address something like that. And you think like, where is all my time gone if I don't feel if this is if if I don't like this, if I don't like that someone's actually willing to talk about something that doesn't get talked about or is willing to take a stand. So stick-to-itiveness really comes from being put in a position where you have to someone thinks that the way that you think is wrong, and not being arrogant, not being what is the word, like conceited, but just saying, okay, no, stay in the conversation longer until you can really get out what you're thinking about. That to me is stick-to-itiveness. Whereas it's like it's different than being stubborn. It's different than being, than trying to dominate. It's just like, okay, if this isn't, it's almost like you're managing someone else. You're like, I told you to do something, and you either do it or you just don't. You just don't. You know, it's just like you get stick-to-itiveness. Almost you give people an opportunity to mess up themselves before you change your own behavior. And I think a lot of people miss that. A lot of people, when they hear someone criticize them, they immediately assume, okay, I'm doing something wrong. Let me alter who I am to fit this other person. And so in there you have a lot of like, there's a lot of honor and like respect that people try to like behave how in the way people try to behave. They try to like humble themselves. But I think every once in a while you do have to be that. You do have to like stand up for yourself and stick to what you're saying. It's just the way that I typically experience it is people try to double down on something that they don't even. Tico would have a lot to say about this. Like people a lot of times are defending things that they don't actually believe in or that work against their own interests harder than they are their own, like what they really believe, what they really might believe on the inside. Like they're always trying to push this narrative.
Yeah, that's typically a lot of people. It's sad when it happens, but a lot of people will try to double down or defend things that they don't wholeheartedly believe in, because it is more so virtue signaling than anything, what you're actually talking about when they do that. And to watch somebody do it is like very sad and depressing, because you know they really don't believe in it, and you know it's a bunch of talking points. They really don't have anything to back it besides a bunch of talking points. They really can't argue. It's kind of like, case in point. Remember when MD was repeating all the stuff that I said in the stream at one point, but he had no basis for the stuff that he was actually arguing or saying, but it sounded good?
Yeah, and his conclusion was completely different too.
Yeah. So it's one of those things where it's like, it was my argument, but he forgot the actual argument and why it was actually supposed to be, or why it is the way it is. And he basically just ran with it, and he basically used talking points. He turned into
it's kind of like the people that say, let's not deal with drama. Meanwhile, you're talking about you talk about MD. MD, I love the guy, but he is full of drama. So then, like, when you say don't deal with the drama, and then you're trying to expel the drama, and that's when people decide to speak up. It's like you're more or less arguing in their favor, and they're not used to that.
That's not what I'm really talking about. But what I'm actually explaining is the way he went about it was just nothing more than talking points. He didn't really have a basis for why he was talking about it. He really didn't know himself why he was talking about it and arguing these points. So it basically sounded like, case in point, ad hominems. So everything sounded like an ad hominem, or it sounded like a talking point, for the very fact that he didn't have any basis. He didn't really believe in it. He believed in it, but he didn't really have the notion or the education or the knowledge behind it to actually argue the points. They sounded great, but he knew nothing about the points that he was arguing. He basically was just at that point, he's basically throwing things at the wall to see what sticks, if you know what I mean.
True. And that's different than just, well, don't you what is so sad and depressing about that? Because that doesn't sound too bad.
It's sad and depressing because, case in point, it'd be no different than somebody who grew up racist and never really figured it out for themselves to determine if they're actually racist. And you're talking to them, you ask them why they're racist, and they basically repeat and recite the same things that they heard when they were a kid.
Oh, okay.
That's depressing because they don't really have their own opinion, or they haven't quite formed their own opinion on why they are, but they are. It's like they just are because. But the sad part about that is they haven't really developed their own reasoning. They haven't really developed their own experiences, and they're basically running off of an old playbook or somebody else's talking points. But they don't have any basis for why they're arguing it or believe what they believe. It's kind of like a Christian. Well, the Bible says this. Okay, did you read the Bible? No. Then how do you know the Bible actually says that? Well, people tell me.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. The Bible. I'm trying to make it fit with like discipline, but that is discipline when it comes to.
Well, yeah, that's a lack of discipline because you're actually not practicing what you preach, and you're not reading the Bible, but you're saying that the Bible says this, but you're actually not actually going in and actually reading the actual Bible to see if it actually says that. Like a lot of people think that the Serenity Prayer. I think a lot of people actually think the Serenity Prayer is actually the Bible, but it's not.
It's not.
It was developed secular.
You see what I'm saying? You see what I'm saying? So like people do that stuff on a regular basis, not knowing that what they're talking about is actually not in there, or what they're saying is actually not really a true statement.
To thyself be honest. It's like that's not in the Bible.
Yeah,
you know,
there's a lot of quotes that's not in the Bible that people think in the Bible and they quote it and they say, well, the Bible says, but they can't tell you what verse, they can't tell you what chapter, they can't tell you what book, they can't tell you. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like that.
They're basically just repeating and reciting what they heard.
We might, and if that's the case, we might as well be in the ancient Roman Empire, freaking Catholic Empire, in a Gothic period where nobody could, but the majority of the public couldn't read.
Yeah,
You know,
most of them can't.
at that
Yeah,
point, you might as well be. And that's what makes it so sad because you haven't formed your own opinion. You don't even have your own argument. You don't even have your own basis to stand on. You're basically just going off of somebody else's talking point. This is the reason why it's talking points. You heard the stuff, you supposedly learned the stuff, but you never actually went in and actually dove into the stuff yourself. You never actually formed why it is the way it is, why you're actually arguing this argument, and why you believe what you actually believe, which makes it a talking point at that point. You know what I mean?
right?
But if it's a talking point, then the question is, do you actually really believe what you're actually preaching? It's kind of like all the women who say feminism and down with the patriarchy. Then they
don't
turn,
have a. Yeah.
then they turn a certain age and they realize that they were sold a lie or a dream.
They don't have a pause button. They really they can't. They have to. It's either they gotta like somebody in that group got to come up with something that fits the narrative that twists things around, like this whole slap situation.
Yeah. But
or they when somebody tries to pull them aside and just intervene and be like, hey, I really don't think that you know what you're talking about. All of a sudden they feel like slighted. It's kind of like when you were talking about not letting people into the bleeding edge. It's not because you have to prove yourself to be able to be on it. Everybody basically, and this is my opinion, everybody basically qualifies for it up front, and then over time you show exactly the limits of what you're able to actually
provide,
comprehend. Yeah, and then that's the thing. That's the thing. When you hear people talking crap, people want to shut it down because it's not because it's bad, because people talk crap on you, me, everybody, all the time. So it's like it's not like it's necessarily something that is like a humanity disgrace. Get this out of here. That's a talking point. And whenever you want to pause somebody on that, they don't want to pause. They want to keep talking about it.
When they're trying to shut you down because they're mad because they can't get in it, that's basically a talking point. They're just mad because they're reacting to something that they can't get in. Case in point, Enter Mega Man. The one time when he tried to get in because he wanted to be a part of Bleeding Edge, he didn't get in, so he felt slighted, so he went to go make a whole entire live stream about it. See what I'm saying?
A lot of it.
Go ahead, Billy.
A lot of it ends up becoming about emotions. I felt as though I was quoting that person correctly, but it's like, no, this is what this is your magical thinking that's now filling in the gap. You're basically confabulating
what they refer to as the Mandela effect. You thought that's what we wanted. You thought that's what I said, but that's not what I said.
Yeah. One of the reasons why I use what's the word I'm looking for? Not sayings, but I use metaphors, is because I'm going, like I said, if I try to quote a person verbatim, I'm going to screw it up. But if I do use somebody's metaphors, I will definitely cite them. I will definitely give them the direction to the metaphor. Like if I were to use,
this is why people say, "Have you got receipts?" And if you can recite it and give a receipt for it, then
Well, that's projection, because they want you to shut up. So their talking point is to ask you to talk more. Which then, if you finish your thought already,
improve yourself.
Right. You're arguing with it. They turn it into an argument as opposed to just it's just a discussion.
Instead of taking the metaphor as my own, I don't have the backing of that metaphor. I don't have the full understanding. So rather than do that, point them to the person that actually has the full understanding.
Yeah. It's kind of like when you reference somebody or reference something. That's pretty much what you're doing. You're pretty much giving what you say an actual backing. But sad part about that is there's a lot of people that actually abuse that backing, which we're kind of sort of off topic now. But there's a lot of people that abuse that backing and try to say, well, such and such said this. Well, that has nothing to do with what you said. That has nothing to do with what you're trying to preach or back or trying to, confirm what you're actually talking about. It's like that's not how this works. You can't take a philosopher and then say a quote for something that has nothing to do with the quote that you're actually nothing to do with what you're actually saying. The quote has nothing to do with what you're saying, and you're trying to make it fit so you can actually sound like you're smart and sound like what you're talking. You know what you're talking about.
Right.
Metaphors are actually a better way of actually doing it because you basically have to come up with that metaphor first off. And if you're like me, you make videos off the top. So you have to be witty to come up with that metaphor and to actually apply it to what you're actually talking about.
Right.
So that requires a shit ton of discipline once you actually think about it to bring it back on topic. To do something like that, that requires a lot of discipline. There's a reason why people refer to me as being very witty, because I am very witty. I always have a comeback for something, and I'm very quick with it.
That was like a double discipline. You had to be disciplined to bring it back to being disciplined.
Yeah, basically, yeah. Because we were off topic and I had to drag it back, and that requires discipline to do it, though. And for me to be that witty and on point when I'm actually recording a video that I didn't write down, that I don't have anywhere else, and for me to actually come on live streams and do what I do, it requires a high level of wit. It requires a high level of intellect, and it requires a high level of, discipline to actually do it and not go off the rails like Wayne did in the one bleeding edge and got us all struck down.
I'm throwing the word focus as well.
Yeah, I do that sometimes. Hey, look, I learned a valuable lesson. Don't do live streams when you're asleep. When you're half asleep.
Yeah, so that's typically how a lot of that works. It requires a high level of discipline to pull off. And it requires you to learn and be within. You can't just go off the rails all the time. To go off the rails all the time, that requires a lack of discipline. To be controlled and refined and to do it in a manner such as Bleeding Edge Red Pill, it requires a lovely conduct and discipline without rules. There really aren't no rules. There really are no rules to Bleeding Edge, really.
No.
But the sad part about that is we all fall within a certain confines of everything, so it won't be considered as racy or, ridiculous or, entertainment. It's an educational program, so therefore you have to basically present it as such.
It's like there's no rules, but for there to be a structure, there needs to be those kind of boundaries and discipline and things like that. Yeah. So without it, otherwise, it just goes off the rails and has no foundation, but no like backbone or no skeletal frame.
Yeah. And I think Bleeding Edge is one of the only programs that actually has a format that we follow on a regular basis. And it requires discipline to follow it. Has it been off the rails a couple times? Yeah, it has. It's went far off the rails a few times. Yeah. One of the ones that I can actually think of was one of the ones with Sifu in it. It just went off the rails and nobody controlled it, and it just kept going, basically.
And he's not solely at fault for it going off the rails. That's what makes it a group. That's what I feel like. That's what the discipline is, taking accountability. That it's not just about weeding out people. Right. That's where I think I kind of like also think it's depressing when people say I don't feel like I need to be on here when they're welcome. It's like it's insulting to us also, to a person. Not in an emotional way, but just like, wait, why do you feel like you're not qualified to be on here? That's my main question.
The sad part about that is this is the problem with a lot of people that you miss. A lot of people believe that they need to know all the stuff that we talk about. You don't. Sometimes you just have to listen and just add your 2 cents to it. Right. But the sad part about Bleeding Edge, which makes it discipline, is you have to actually add your 2 cents to it. You can't just sit there and sit in the stream and just chill the whole entire time. You got to be reactive. You got to be responsive. And you got to actually add to the actual conversation. You can't just sit there the whole entire time.
Like just a bump on a log.
Staring at the wall, staring at your watch, staring at all the other stuff. You got
playing video games, watching movies,
drinking tea. It's like sipping tea. Sipping tea is for after the live stream.
Well, no, sipping tea is fine during a live stream, but you still got to put down your tea to talk.
I was joking. You can't just chug
the whole entire time. We can't hear the whole entire time. It doesn't work like that. You got to actually put in some actual words. That's what I mean by that. It's like it takes discipline because you can't just sit on the sidelines and expect to be a part of something like that. If you know what I mean.
Basically, get your back up off the wall and get down on it.
You know
Yeah,
what I
no,
mean?
that does
It's
that
also
pretty much sums it. That pretty much sums that up. Pretty. I mean,
hold on.
Yeah.
That's something I want to quickly add, if I may.
no, I wasn't cutting you off. You can go. Yeah.
Discipline also is a byproduct of having self-respect
Mhm.
and self-worth and self-value and things like that. So
Even self-preservation.
yeah, as well. So self-preservation will be like the motive or the ambition in a way, the goal of being disciplined. Like there needs to be some sort of reward by being disciplined. You expect something to come from it. Otherwise, what's kind of like the point of being disciplined? But
Also with self-preservation, what comes with it is the fact that you actually can actually admit that you know nothing about some of the topics sometimes, but you can actually sit, listen, and learn.
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
You don't have to be the king of all the topics. This is typically why we have special guests, so we can bring them in, so they can talk about these topics, and we can learn more altogether.
I mean, yeah,
Right.
because
Yeah.
discipline is kind of like training. Sorry to cut you. Can I finish my
Okay.
point?
Go ahead, Billy.
So another part of discipline is because it's like training and educating and learning. So the ability to ask questions, to be disciplined and to value your own need for asking questions because you have a sense of self-respect and you owe it, you feel like you owe it to yourself and those around you or whoever else is listening. And so yeah, if you're just sitting by twiddling your thumbs and half asleep, not only is it disrespect to other people, but in a way it's a disrespect to yourself.
Yeah.
And
Sorry, Wayne. Thank you.
yeah, I'm gonna break it for a lot of people that are short-sighted, like, but at the same time, discipline. Now, discipline and training, like for me, it's like basically if you stay in a formation, like in a cohesive formation, you basically minimize the possibility of green on green. You know, those of you who don't know who green on green is where your battle buddy, you're right, I said it, battle buddy, basically shoots you, or like you call on for an airstrike, but you're this rogue man out in the middle
Just
of
dysfunction. It's just not well organized.
like right. You
Bull in
basically
the china shop.
but when you're not well organized as a unit, and you've got this one Yahoo over here.
But sorry, I'm going to cut you off because it's like people think that they're well organized when they constantly gossip, you know. And that, I mean, it's a different vibe than because a lot of people, a lot of people would accuse people of especially if you're being critical.
Here's anything about gossip. And here's a little red pill gem on gossip. Nobody does gossip, and nobody's more disciplined on gossip than a woman.
Exactly. I was about to say, but it's like
you could try. You could try, but it's never going to be on par with.
It's not going to be on par. It'll never be on par with women. Like case in point, like people might think everything's well orchestrated behind the scenes. Like my videos are made 4 weeks to a year in advance. So when Yam is on some tirade on somebody and Wynn's on some tirade on somebody, and my video happens to come out and it happens to be about something like that, it wasn't orchestrated. It was just a video that I had in the shoot that I never released.
Mm-hmm.
So it sounds like it's well orchestrated and coordinated when it's really not.
Yeah. And I think it's funny because I think most people believe that when they gossip and then they come out into the public that it looks well organized, but it really looks as though they're going off of like what you said, like an older playbook. It's not like it doesn't come from this classic sort of like off the cuff. It's everything like revolves around a talking point. And I don't know if I'm like beating a subject to death, but it really is like it gets cringe, because it's like I don't nothing that we do on here is like scripted. I write the topics down just as a guide. I don't write the topics down like, oh yeah, no, we have to stick to these topics because unless so and so is showing up, then I'm like, okay, then we have to do this topic because, and then but other than that, it's not. People have like are resent when something would sort of just fall into your lap like a good conversation, you know.
Yeah.
Or
like that, or that well placed video about oneself, or being the one video I released about like just being a better person, or being a better human being, or being a better part of society, basically, or learning and growing and shit like that. People think, that seems to fit what Yam has done. Well, that video was actually made before Yam actually made his video, so it just happened to be uploaded today. What happened? Well, not even uploaded.
And I think that it comes with having boundaries. Like it's like I watch Tico's videos, Tico will watch my video, but we don't like plan our videos based on what each other think, like how each other is going to approach making content. Is kind of my overall conclusion when it comes to why I might go off on a tirade. And Wind and I have talked, so maybe there's a little bit of a link there. But Tico, no, I don't try to be like, all right, Tico, what are you putting out? Let's see if we can, let's see if we can cross market each other's ideas.
And the neat thing about it, like half the time, I don't even know what I'm putting out. Because if you look under the low bar or in the description box, I don't even upload the video. Laszlo uploads the video. So I don't know what video is coming out, what day for what. I know it's coming out soon, but I don't know when it's coming out. And Laszlo pretty much curates all that stuff, and he puts it up and he posts the video, and it's like, I just record the stuff and he just pretty much uploads it. So it's one of those things where it's curated by Laszlo in a way where he knows what video is going up based on how he feels, or based on what he heard, or based on the manosphere, like what the manosphere is doing. He'll upload a video based on like case in point. If let's just say we're talking about something about everybody's on like controlling your urges and your sexual desires, and that's the thing now. Laszlo listens to this and he uploads a video, something similar to that, and he runs with it for about like a couple days. Like, let it be a topic, let it be two topics, let it be a couple videos that happens around that. He'll pretty much upload it. Like if they're talking about like something like being a better person or a human being, or he basically just uploads it then. Anything, if the manosphere is not really shaking and doing anything, he typically just uploads a video for inspiration or for learning yourself better, or being a better human being, for all intents and purposes, the best way to put it.
Mm-hmm. And if him being younger, it's like when you get older, you use the backlog of experience maybe that you have to make content. And I think a lot of people's lives aren't really streamlined. And to see it, kind of to call back to what we were talking about at the beginning,
like case in point, speaking on Laszlo, that requires a whole lot of discipline to do that as a young child. You gotta get a feel for what the manosphere is talking about, then upload a video based on what the manosphere was going on in the manosphere, or something close to what's going on in the manosphere. Like case in point, if you ever notice, when a lot of trolling and a lot of drama is going on in the manosphere, typically a lot of the videos have nothing to do with the drama or anything in the manosphere. It's typically about like growth and bettering yourself, or something else. Totally
then afterwards, it's like, see how did that work out? How did the drama work out for you?
Yeah, basically, yeah. That's pretty much the video to have. How did that drama work out for you, Laszlo? That's the type of video that we will pretty much upload. Like people think I'm picking on them when I upload a video, but I'm not the one uploading the video. I just record it. Laszlo puts it together, or puts it with videos, or puts it with pictures, and it gets uploaded. And it's like,
so really, it has nothing to do with that makes sense, because that's why most people think the video has to do with them. But
people think that I'm picking on them personally, when in fact that video was recorded months ago. That video was recorded anywhere between 4 weeks to a year ago,
if not probably 2 years. A case in some rare cases.
Oh yeah, some rare cases. I got like some 2-year videos that need to still go up, 3-year videos, 4-year videos that still need to go up. So it's like I basically wait for like the topic to roll back around because it requires discipline to listen and know when something's going to roll back around. It's almost like a farmer's almanac. Like you listen for the Manosphere stuff, you basically look at the trends and basically look how everything peaks and troughs and when stuff's going to come up again. And you basically upload the video then. Based on the trending stuff or based on the history of the Manosphere and when things, certain topics peak and trough, you basically upload a video to fit that peak and trough. And that requires discipline. And that requires you to pay attention and to learn and then to act accordingly and respond accordingly, basically.
AKA situational awareness.
It's mostly like it's like as long as you're getting, I think as long as people are getting like a paycheck of validation or money, they don't want to rock the boat. They would rather just sit and collect what they're getting now as opposed to trying to increase, tap into that ambition that's maybe inside of them or learn something from a person that maybe doesn't apply so much of this, like, I don't know, like greed to the situation because it's like, I don't know. I think the way I would sum up that, like the dynamic of Laszlo and Tico is just like, pardon me. It's like, it's just, so it seems like really detached or not very not very invested in but still very present.
That part about that is you have to be invested in it to upload the video. And everybody around you has to be invested in it for it to actually work. Like, case in point, the titling of the videos, that's actually not done by me. That's actually done by Princess. She titles the videos. She listens to it, and she comes up with the title for the video. Like, I think the funniest title that I thought I was going to get smacked for by YouTube was Slapping Hoes and Burning Simps Naked.
Mm-hmm.
That I thought I was definitely getting smacked by YouTube for that one, but I didn't. It was probably like one of the better videos because of the naming scheme, basically, and she names all the videos, so it's like,
yeah. But no, Tika, you're arrogant because you're not paying attention to that kind of stuff. It's like, I didn't do this stuff, so why would I pay attention to the stuff?
I did the material.
No,
I just don't really title it because when I title stuff, it's stupid. I'll admit that in a heartbeat. I got dumb titles for shit. So I need somebody that's going to title it properly so it can actually pop or get better stuff or, trend better, if you know what I mean.
Like,
I'm going to admit I suck at titling. And that's a part of discipline. No, self-awareness and discipline. You know that you suck at something, so you get somebody that's better at it.
Right. For me, it's like, it's along the lines of, God dang it, I forgot. But for me, it's like my best titled videos would probably be my rolling videos,
Yeah.
A series of videos that are now completed, because it's got 50 videos, but there's no point in making anymore because you're already getting completed it,
Yeah, like
it's almost like you try to escape you try to escape the world and go into the manosphere and you find a lot of spiritual leaders still.
Yeah.
Like these spirit people who are like think that they are well attuned to divine powers and stuff, and it's like, then why aren't you blue pilled? Like, why do you have all these inhibitions? Why do you have all this stuff if you're like such a spiritual leader? It seems like why do you have to like tailor what you say or have any mulling it? Why do you have to mull it over and create content? Why is not your life just a constant stream of validation if you're such a great
why do you have to swirl it around your head like a fine glass of wine?
Yeah, that's another thing. It's like
case in point, like the two channels that I operate, Kiko Trend Red Pill and Vedic Ghost. They're basically dualities. They're actually basically dualities. Kiko Trend is unchained, unfiltered, and all unadulterated, like, just unbridled truth. Cussing, swearing, don't really care about your feelings, stuff like that. Whereas Vedic Ghost is more refined and controlled. The neat thing about the channels is if you actually pay attention to the manosphere and you actually know who my two favorite content creators are, you will realize that the Vedic Ghost channel is more like the one content creator, and the Tico Trend channel is just like the other content creator. Case in point, one of the two content creators I'm actually talking about is the Vedic Ghost channel is more like Sandman, but shorter, and the Tico Trend channel is more like TFM. What I mean by that is, if you actually watched, I think it was Against the Grain with TFM that on my channel, he literally said that he doesn't want to water himself down. He wants to actually be himself and say what he wants, feel what he wants, and put it out there, basically. This is what the Tico Trend channel is. That's exactly what the Tico Trend channel is. Say what I want, when I want, how I want to, and if you don't like it, that's just too bad. Unbridled truth.
But no, yeah,
if you don't like it, it's just too bad. Whereas the Vedic Ghost channel is more like Sandman. It's more like your Sandmans and your Coach Greg Adams and Better Bachelors. It's more refined, and it's basically more. It's readily able and available for more consumption and people to watch, basically. So it's basically the Tico Trend channel, but refined and restrained. So it's a duality.
Yeah, that's why I don't. When people get mad at the Vedic Ghost channel, I think that it's so silly because it's like the TFM. Like that's funny that you said that, because when I watch TFM, I'm completely engaged. I'm like happy. Wow, he's saying things that I am thinking. But then when you listen to TFM, it's like not all of that stuff is supposed to be addressed to you. It's not specifically tailored for you. It's not. It's like it's definitely it's watered down. It's
not watered down. It's a
not in a negative.
Message.
It is,
but it's done in a way that's not like a Tico Trend slapping you in the face while I'm doing it, or up close and personal slapping you in the face, slapping you all over the place. It's basically done in a tactful manner, which is like pretty much what Sandman does.
Mm-hmm. Basically, the opposite.
Only thing different is with the Vedic Ghost channel, there's not as many jokes and punchlines as Sandman has. There's a lot of metaphors, but it doesn't have the jokes and punchlines like Sandman does. And it's unscripted. So that's the fundamental difference. And yes, I am Vedic Ghost, and yes, I am Tico Trend Red Pill. If for those of you who don't know.
or two what's the word?
Yeah, I get what you're saying. They just can't see the forest through the trees.
Yeah.
That's literally a TFM reference in a video. And the last one.
Can't find the behinds with a map.
Well, that's because with Sandman you can like send him. A lot of times his content's like, this was sent to me from a subscriber, so I mean I can explain something to them that they didn't understand. But for TFM, it's like if you don't get it, you're kind of like a part of the joke. Yeah. So it's funny how people will try to go to Vedic Ghost.
The Tico channels, if you don't get it, you're a part of the joke. Yeah. Whereas the Vedic Ghost channel is literally set up the same way Sandman's videos are, but only thing different is it's basically nothing more than requests. It's basically somebody sent me a request, I did a video on it under the Vedic Ghost channel, and there's nothing more, nothing less. So the Vedic Ghost channel is nothing but request videos. And it's done in a way where it doesn't have the punchlines and witty jokes like Sandman. It's basically just done straightforward and a lot of metaphors. Whereas the Tico Trend channel is done, if you don't get it, you're pretty much the butt of the joke. If you do get it, then you're in on a joke.
That's why it's fun to watch it, because it's like if you're in on the joke, then what's there to be? What's there to be dismissive about? It's like, why do you want to tell? Why would you? Who would ever tell TFM like don't talk about the doll, or don't talk about the dollhouse, or don't talk about turning single mother kids into secret agents and like super soldiers or something. It's like, yeah, it's ridiculous, but it's a joke. You know, it's something that if you haven't been listening to him for, or
Yeah, you have
if
to
you
listen
don't
to them
if
to
you don't
understand.
if you don't spend time, no, you don't even have to be like an OG or whatever. It's just if you just take a like, you know, if you I don't see a person like a sane person like resenting anything that comes out of TFM's mouth like after 10 full episodes where he, you know, or not even 10 full episodes, just like looking at the talking heads in the chat, the way that they interact with what he says, and then just being like, there's no severity to what it's like. It's not hate speech. It's not what the heck. It's not drama. It's just that's his brand of talking. And then if you spend enough time trying to listen and trying to understand it, then what is there to be? What is there to have to get in the comments to remind him and everybody that's listening to him, like, oh man, TFM has problems, or it's like that's you like what you said, Tico. It's like women are better at psycho or at like analyzing a person like that than men are, but it seems like men have
Well,
kind of
no,
like
because
taken it.
I'm not saying that they're better at analyzing a person like that. I'm just saying they're better at gossip than men are.
Yeah, but that's what you
As far
mostly
as
see in the
analyzing,
comments is like just
it
gossip.
depends on what you're trying to analyze. Are you trying to analyze how somebody's sitting, or are you trying to analyze, if somebody's lying, or you're trying to analyze stuff like that? Then that's pretty much takes logic. If you're trying to analyze somebody based on mood or feeling, or that, then that requires emotion and emotional intelligence to actually do so, or not emotional intelligence, empathy or intuition to do so. If you know what I mean. If you're just going off of based off emotion and how a person looks and feels, and judging a book by its cover,
Hmm.
you're basically either going off emotion or you're going off of, well, judging a book by its cover, you can go one of two ways. You can go off of logic or you can go off emotion. If you go off of logic, 9 times out of 10, you're more likely to be right about the person than you are if you're going off emotion. Because 9 times out of 10,
Right.
seeing somebody scruffy in public in black, you're probably going to want to steer clear of that person.
Right.
But if you
Like me.
actually think of it from a logical standpoint, that person's probably a cool person. You probably want to engage with that person. You see what I'm saying? So it's different on what you're looking at if you're going to use emotion or logic. Like if you're going to look at somebody that's dangerous, typically I always say women are good at finding people that are dangerous. Even though they call other people creeps and dangerous, or they're creepy or they're this, they're typically good at finding dangerous people because they always end up dating those people, if you know what I mean. So it's like, oh yeah, that's a dangerous person because she's dating them, obviously. Or that's an asshole person because she's dating them. Typically women date assholes. It's like, so it's one of those things where it's like you literally can follow something based on a set structure or a set milieu based on what women do. Like, case in point, the guy in the friend zone's a nice guy. Even though he gets called creepy or lame or whatever the heck he gets called, he's probably one of the nicer people. Most times.
Basically, if it
Now, there are
works like
some
a
that are
duck,
crazy, and there are some that are crazy and out there, but those are typically few and far between. But most of them are pretty much, kissing ass and trying to make it basically in life. But with
basically,
the woman,
basically, to sum it up, if it walks like a duck, basically when it comes to women when they date, most of the time, if it walks like a duck, if it quacks like a duck, 9 times out of 10, it's a
it's a
duck.
duck. Yeah, and that goes for simps, and that goes for simps, and that goes for the people they date. Because typically, women typically don't really date simps unless they're trying to use them or get resources out of them.
Or they're just basically a consolidation prize because they didn't get the first prize.
Yeah. So that's pretty much what it is. Like they're basically just using them for resources at that point because they really don't want very much from them, and they really don't deem them as necessary. Besides the fact that they're just taking care of them. That's it. They keep a roof over their head. They give them money. They let them go shopping. Things like that. They're going to take advantage of that. Women will. If you flash enough money in front of somebody, typically people will pretty much, like I always say, everybody has a price when it comes down to it. Whether we all like it or not, whether all want to admit it or not, everybody has a price. Let it be financial, let it be agreements, let it be tit for tat or a deal or an IOU. Everybody has a price when it comes down to it. It's all about what you're willing to sell yourself for and what you're willing to do to basically get what you need or want basically out of life. Women are just willing to do it more than men are. And the sad part about that, there are a lot of men. There are a lot of men that want love and need love so much that they're willing to just throw it all away for that one person, which lacks discipline. Because if you had the discipline, you wouldn't just, give it all to somebody that really doesn't care about you, because you would actually be able to learn that, see that that person's there and they're fake and they just want things and not you. And you would know that, learn that, and you would know that about that person, so you wouldn't get into that whole entire situation because of that. If you know what I mean. Whereas they do. So they lack the discipline and knowledge to know anything about that. So therefore, they're easily taken advantage of. Whereas somebody like me, it's like, yeah, no, stop. It's kind of like the one bear thing. The one bear meme that I have in a couple of my videos. Stop right there. That's more than enough bullshit that I'm willing to listen to or her for one day. Literally, that's where I'm at when it comes to people and women and things like that. Okay, that's enough bullshit I'm willing to listen to. We're done now. We're shutting it down.
I can hear your dog.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was like the nice guy, he will never, like, they would never be able to swallow their pride and date a girl. Like to look at, like, we'll go back to Will Smith. Like, if you knew you would be promised to be on the top of acting, so quote unquote, right? To be that person, you have to date that monster. Most people aren't willing to do that because they just see, like, okay, obviously, no, that's not a good thing. But you got some people out there who are willing to say, like, well, if you want to be on the top, you need that woman in your life that's going to be on you like that. And it's just like, it's like, that doesn't, I feel like it doesn't make sense to us.
That's where the term "the juice is not worth the squeeze" comes into play. The fact that he's dating that person, he's on top. It's like, do you really want somebody like that in your corner, embarrassing you on a regular basis? Is the juice really worth the squeeze? And so, most times it's not. And there's a lot of men that are simp enough to actually just be like, yes, dear, kind of like how True Storm says it, or Simple L Jax basically is the term he uses. And there's enough men that actually literally would do that for the rest of their lives and be perfectly happy with being used and abused and, for exchange for love or sex if they get it. There's a lot of men that's willing to do that, sadly. There's more men that's willing to do that than there are men that's not willing to put up with the crap.
No,
hell, there's men in the manosphere that put up with crap on a regular basis, and they pretend like they don't, and they act like they're pillars of the community when they are really putting up with a whole hot mess at home, like a Jada Pinkett Smith. But the sad part about that, they try to portray this image like they're not when they really are, and it's sad to watch. When you meet these people in real life, it's very sad to watch, because what they say on videos and what they're actually doing in real life, two totally different things. Things.
Yeah. It's like, you fool me twice, you fool me, you can't get fooled again.
Okay, George.
All right, Bush. All right, President Bush.
Well, I wonder. I'm trying to figure out who originally came up with that he butchered. Like, where does that comes from? Wherever that comes from, they should be given, like, the Nobel Prize or the Cultural Heritage Award, because it's like, fool me. You get, like, so many people in the manosphere are like, don't really think about that. They maybe look at that president as that source of that quote, but they don't really listen and say, like, he's actually right. Not in the way that he's not in the quote, but if somebody's continuously deceiving you like that, you have to, at some point, you have to pull back and realize that it's all a farce.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of people don't have that in that mindset. A lot of people don't have that in intellect to understand that they're being fooled, they're being deceived.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, I don't always handle things as mentally as like most people think.
Or like with dating or with women, they give women like a chance, or they give the white knights a chance at their emotions, and like they like say, like, oh, maybe I was in the wrong, and then they're able to sit there and ignore as Tika says it, like, the humiliation that comes with putting yourself in that position, because, as Billy the Goat says it, is like there's that idea that when they devote themselves to a service, that there's a reward at the end of it. And then that service is being like the joke, being the Will Smith, being like everybody collapsing in on them and judging them. It's like
I,
they do
I'm
it to
still,
them. They do it to themselves mostly.
I
Like that.
still have a hard time believe. Like for me, it's like I
What's
mean,
up, Mickey Farley? Good to see you.
Well, with Will,
uh,
he's probably wondering, like, this isn't what I bargained for.
for me, it's like I've been in the manosphere for so long that, or especially in MGTOW, that I have trouble not slipping back into a MGTOW, into a toxic MGTOW mindset. You know, Tico's called me out on it a few times, multiple times, numerous amounts of times. You know, and how about you like say, am I wrong? Like you've called me out on it. You know,
Yeah, because there's a point where you're actually teaching somebody something, and there's a point where you're teaching people toxic behaviors. And
Yeah,
it's like I will call you out on it if you're going toxic on the whole entire thing, or if you're trying to preach something one thing, but you're doing the exact opposite thing when you're bashing another brother or bashing another person in the manosphere for no reason whatsoever besides the fact that you're just acting on emotion. Then I will call you out on it. Yeah. Or if you're trying to pretend like you're innocent and you're really you're really one of the
it's that
problem.
whole narrative thing that you're talking about too. When it comes to your real life, how much do you care? How much do you really care about it? What do you say? Like, don't if it doesn't
Like a lot
affect
of
your
people
page,
talk it, but
don't let it
nobody
affect
really
your.
live. A lot of people will talk it, but the same people very really live it.
Yeah.
right?
Well, that I think about what you say, where it's just like, and we're kind of this. I kind of guess like we go around and get afterthoughts, but yeah, it is just to add what you said. It's like if it doesn't affect your pay, don't let it affect your day. I think
Right.
that's a big takeaway for me at least. It's like, well, what's the point of doing most of the time when we talk like when you go to the Black Manosphere, they're still talking about how to help their community and stuff, and it's just like every individual Black man is going to get discriminated against regardless of what the community is doing. Like if the
Right.
community was all of a sudden doing amazing things, it wouldn't matter to some person in Podunk, Whiteville, quote unquote, not to be, just to because that's the language people use nowadays. It's like it wouldn't matter to a person what the community is doing. So why waste your time? Focus on something that's actually like it's like stealing a Nike shoe as opposed to learning how to operate like a boat or something that's actually useful. It's gonna or like a reliable car as opposed to like a Lamborghini or something like that, or like a
Or
super
like it, like
super
but
over
like
the top, not really, or just buying a car because it's trendy and not because it's actually like it's what you want.
what a little secret: Lamborghinis are not as reliable as everybody thinks.
Yeah,
They're
like it's
actually
like a mercy. I think of it like a mercy hire. It's like, do we really need this person to fill a quota, or is it more important to do like why incorporate what this person has to say? Even though they have valid things to say as a human being, just because of like how they present, because they fit a narrative. Like
Well, no, you went too
just
far with that analogy.
what
Basically,
did
it'd
I
be
do?
like a car, whereas like the question is, do you actually really need it, and do you really like it, or are you doing it because other people like it and other people are doing it, so you want to fit in?
What are you doing to that poor dog?
Nothing. He's basically being silly right now.
Well, I think that's a good sign. If a dog's upset by the live stream, it might be time.
No, he's not upset about a live stream. He's just basically being silly right now. But no, what I'm basically saying is when you basically buy it because you like it, you love it, you like it, and you want it. Basically, you don't buy it because everybody else has one, or it's what's in right now, or it's what's the style, or it's the pop culture. So you got to get it. Basically, don't keep up with the Kardashians or keep up with the Joneses. You basically get it because you want it. It's kind of like when I showed the videos of the cars. I didn't buy it because everybody had it. I bought it because I like them. And
Hmm.
I do have to upload more car videos, but that's neither here nor there. But I only bought the vehicles because I like them. Like I remember somebody under the black car video said that's a true Sigma thing. I never even knew they actually made a RS cruise. And it's true. Like I'm not buying it because everybody else has it. I'm not buying it because it's cool. I'm buying it because I like it, and it does what I wanted to do.
Right.
Not because entrepreneur in car said I should get it. Not because there was a sponsor link or somebody in the video said I should get it. I got it because I like it, and that's what I do.
No, that's what I see when I look at that. When I look out at the master, I see a lot of people
like
doing
think of it like this. There's two types. There's three types of cars, but there's mainly two types of cars that you're going to buy in life. You're going to buy a grocery getter, or you're going to buy a girl getter. The question is, why did you buy the car? Did you buy it because you want to get girls, and you want to get as many girls as possible? You like to turn heads, and you want attention, basically, or did you get it because you like it? Typically, that's what grocery getters are. In this day and age, that's what a grocery getter is. You bought it because you like it, not because you want everybody else to check you out or see who you are or say, who's this guy coming down the road in this? Like, no, you don't do it for that reason.
Well, yeah, with the celebrities, I feel like they think it's like now that because everyone acknowledges them, there's a good attention and a bad attention. When I've always seen it is like a lot of attention is just really bad, especially when it comes to your vehicle, like the way that you get from point A to point B. Like the less people that see you, the less predators that like want to see you talk, and then they go so far ahead of that too, to where they're bragging about all this. They're filming videos in these cars that they didn't buy because they just want to get to a place. They're like reinforcing things that they don't even want, that are essential parts of their life, like that have to do with like their how they get from point A to point B. Their daily, like they don't enjoy what they do on a daily basis, but they I'm gonna make a video about this because this is great for my followers and my audience to inspire them, and then it just it always misses the mark. But yeah, we got a sorry, Mickey. A lot of us are preoccupied with stuff right now. We don't really feel like dealing with women today, but if you want to go deal with some women, you're welcome to. Not the place for it right now, though. But yeah, does anybody have any closing thoughts, Billy? I know you've been sipping tea in the background.
Not really. I'm nothing to add really.
Yeah, I'm beat, so I'm ready to end. Wait, what? What? Sorry, what?
No, nothing. I was just gonna talk more cars. Now's not the time.
Yeah, there really should be a car live stream or something.
We can talk more cars if you want to, but we have to make a live stream for that one.
Yeah, car live seems that you're right. It does seem like doing much.
Like I have a few more to have to upload for vehicles, basically. When to seeing what like 4 vehicles?
Yeah.
2 of them which I didn't upload yet.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And I ain't said nothing.
Yeah.
Here in the UK, they're making it more impossible to drive.
Really?
Keep changing the laws.
What if you buy like an electric car? Is it still?
Well,
it does not matter.
They've got this new law now, which is causing a bit of confusion, which is like you're not allowed to use any device that communicates. So it's gone from being on your mobile phone to now you're not even allowed to check the time on your phone. You're not allowed to
hive mind.
Not even allowed to have it in hand. Essentially, it has to be in a cradle. Then now people are like, "Well, can you play music still?" And it's like, "No, you can't. Not with your phone. You have to use like the car stereo built-in."
Yeah, then that sucks within itself.
Whoa. Yeah.
Even if you've got like a fancy iPhone watch or whatever it's called, but yeah, that's not allowed. You're not allowed to be checking your wristwatch.
That's sad.
Yeah. Well, the car horn communicate. No, yeah, you can only interact with the vehicle, right?
Well, that includes communication between your device and the vehicle.
Wow.
Wow.
So it's a real broad kind of blanket way of just catching people out. So what it means for sat navs, I'm not too sure. Um, you know, but yeah, it's just basically more and more headaches. And that's on top of the other recent law change we have, which is like cyclists basically rule the road.
Can y'all leave the UK yet?
We can't kill them yet. No.
Can you leave the UK yet?
Oh, I think so.
Like I said, if you start, I guarantee you, if enough people start leaving the UK, they'll wonder why.
Or maybe not just leave, but just secede. I don't know. Is that
No,
can you
it
secede?
is becoming more like
Yeah.
maybe it's worth an actual discussion. But cars aside, we've now got no fault divorce.
Well, it's really just those two things, right? Relationships and cars. Those are the
No,
only
we've now
disagreements you
got
have.
a massive influx of migrants, and they've got a double status benefit thing where if you came into this country as an asylum seeker, you wouldn't be allowed to work for the first year. But if you come in as a refugee, you could. But they're making it so that the new influx of immigrants coming in can have both statuses at the same time.
That is crazy.
So they can kind of
That is
benefit the system. So we're looking
That
at
is ridiculous.
we were already looking at the collapse of the health service, but now it's escalating because it's because these people who are coming in will be entitled immediately to the health service, even though they haven't contributed anything towards it.
Shoot,
And
I mean,
their birth rate is higher than actual British people, so it won't be long before the British blood gene or whatever will be phased out.
Let me. That has a backfiring effect because eventually.
Well, no, it doesn't, because the sad part about that is the government's basically trying to benefit from the lack thereof children being made, for the lack thereof people who will make children, so they can actually sustain the government. Basically,
That's what I'm thinking. I feel like the government is designed.
Like in a temporary scheme of things, it sucks on the economy because they basically get all this free stuff. In a long-term scheme of things, is their children now are participating to this economy. Therefore, we're going to get our money back from their children. So the children are basically paying for the debts of their parents.
Yeah. Whereas if they couldn't retain both statuses, that would actually short term it would make it so that everybody keeps their job that they had. All the British people keep their job, but long term it's now the kids of the people who are here, no matter what you want to say, are there no matter what you want to say. They
That's
now
into the system now, because you kind of figure if the British people aren't having children, then how is the system going to sustain itself? I mean, I'm not trying to make it sound cool or anything like that, but that's basically
how I understand it is like the government pretty much. I don't know if
it's basically like think of it like panic buying. You basically hear something's running out, so you basically go and get it, or you basically go buy it.
The thing is, what I was saying is, eventually the kids are going to be part of the system. And when the kids are part of the system, now if they're anywhere observant, like they would basically see the same thing, and then you're panic buying again. You know, if people are not screwing or not having children, and you panic buy, bring these migrants in, eventually when their children get older and start seeing the things and start experiencing the laws that their parents didn't have to experience, they're gonna somebody somewhere down the line, somebody's gonna say Whiskey Tango Foxtrot, what is going on here? Why is this? Why what happened? And they're gonna start asking questions, you know. it's a perpetual cycle of panic buying, replace the population, panic buy, replace the population, and it's like
Mhm.
you're going to be doing this in cycles, in 18 to 20-year cycles, you know, all the time. And is it really that sustainable? I mean, it might be, maybe that's the only way they know how to sustain it. But with each of the, like with each law, each generation that experiences that laws as a citizen and is experiencing it getting progressively worse, you're gonna need to buy. You're gonna need to go in cycles, and that is not a healthy for a nation. You know, I mean, it's not healthy, but a lot of the things that people do aren't healthy. But what I'm trying to say is, like, to me, it makes it makes no sense. You're just basically causing more damage, you know, to your nation.
Yeah, yeah, and makes me personally makes me feel like, you know, leaving is more of a better option to consider now. I don't know if I'll be staying. I used to think that I'd be in the UK, you know, most of my life or whatever. But now it's just not really looking feasible.
It's not
So
feasible.
sorry. It's just
Like,
it's and it's not even just like make it just like a reasonable decision someone might want to make in their life anyway. It's actually like, no, I'm getting resentful being here. I'm getting pissed off um, day by day of what's going down. It's just
I'm
like this.
already,
It's a sinking ship, and
yeah.
you know,
Pretty
uh,
soon, the English language will be replaced by whatever language the migrants speak,
it's
and
embarrassing. You know, we got people who apparently they're applying the new police, the new recruits for the police force are getting car sick, and the sirens are too much for them. And these are meant to be the new recruits,
yeah.
and they're having
And,
to be dropped off by their parents, and lunch was made, you know, by mum or something like that. And these are meant to be the police officers of the future.
and you know what's funny? When
Or
they get older,
they can't get fast food because they're vegan, or like I don't know. I wonder how how
you
deep
know
the
what's
rabbit
funny?
hole goes. Yeah.
The police horses have to be retrained because they don't know how to like deal with the rainbow woke paintings on the floor. All these colors are just they dazzle the horses or something like that.
I mean, I find it. I mean, personally, I'm a sick individual. I find stuff like that amusing. You know, I find stuff like that amusing because it's like you're basically when these people who are getting lunch dropped off by their mothers, what happens when their mothers are not there? Who's going to drop lunch off then? You know, they either gotta learn to cook or find somebody that'll basically drop lunch off for them. Problem is, the- not a lot of women
See,
are
you're
gonna
missing a
do.
point.
Yeah,
Here
I think
see, here's the thing you're missing when you say that. Here enters Postmates or Uber Eats or DoorDash.
Right?
But
But you gotta like knowing the
but
restaurants
never,
that are
I mean, the
that
food
you're
part is one thing, but I mean,
It
if they
doesn't
can't
matter.
even
You
they're
still
not
got
gonna
DoorDash and all that
face
stuff.
that. They
you're
don't have to
spending
face that.
extra
Yeah.
money. You're spending extra money.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. They don't have to do it, and they get somebody else to do it for them. Whenever you create a service like that, whenever you create an economy like that, you basically create a service where people are going to go into that business and they're actually going to do. Case in point, Uber. You can actually catch a taxi. Probably cheaper to catch a taxi. Probably cheaper to do a lot of things. But at the end of the day, nobody wants to do it, and everybody wants to feel like they're special. So Uber or Lyft. You see what I'm saying? Now,
Yeah.
when you want some food, but you don't feel like going out, even though it's fast food, you can actually get somebody else to do it. And the sad part about that is you have so many lazy people that don't feel like doing it. They're willing to actually pay the extra money for people to do it for them. Case in point, back in the day, people used to cut their own yards. Now they got landscapers. Back in the day, people used to watch their own children. Now they got babysitters and nannies. See what I'm saying?
Wow.
Yeah.
Back in the
Yeah.
day, people used to clean their own houses. Now they got, maids and house cleaners and stuff like that. Housekeepers now. You see what I'm saying?
Yep.
So the sad part about that, all this stuff creates a certain type of society, and it creates a gig economy for people to actually get in and actually take advantage of it. Back in the day, people used to walk their dogs. Now they got dog walkers.
It's that convenience. That convenience.
So all you're doing
breeds in.
basically, just like a convenience store, you're basically paying for a convenience fee. Just like a convenience store. Like case in point, when if you go to Giant Eagles or a big store like a Walmart, you're going to pay cheaper for a product. But if you go to a convenience store for that product, you're going to pay convenient prices for that product. So you're going to pay a mock-up price for that very thing to have that convenience to actually get it. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, and then that convenience breeds in complacency, and then that brings in neglect.
Speaking of car, but calling back to cars, like cop cars, are usually always parked outside of Starbucks. It's kind of funny how because when you work in a food when you had food jobs back in the past, you would see people drive all the way out, and they felt judged because they're like, I drive all the way out here to get this food. When I could make when if I wanted food, I could make it at my house. But they don't like to do fast food anymore. That's why, or they don't like to just drive out to get fast food anymore. That's why like DoorDash and Uber Eats are so popular, because people don't want to just admit that they don't. When you walk into a fast food restaurant now, all the people that are working there judge you.
It's not about judging. The people don't want to admit that they're lazy. So therefore, instead of actually admitting you're lazy and not being lazy, you make it so you make the environment fit around you because you don't feel like doing a task anymore. Like I said, back in the day, people used to do all this stuff. Now people do it for you. Back in the day, men used to know how to knew how to do their own plumbing. Now you got plumbers. You see what I'm saying? Right. So we learned all these skills, and now all these skills get passed off to somebody else for convenience, and I don't feel like doing it because of my convenience, basically. And I feel like filling my time with what I like to do. So therefore, I'm going to pay this person to do it for me.
Can I ask you guys a question? What do you, when you drive around, are you driving around kilometers per hour?
Miles per hour.
No, okay. What's your?
It depends on where I drive around kilometers per hour. I know what you're talking about.
What's your speed limit on urban side streets?
25 depends on the 25 to sometimes 5 urban side streets, sometimes 5.
15, sometimes 20, sometimes 10.
Okay. All right. Yeah, we got 20 miles an hour on our side streets, and
typically it's anywhere between 25 and lower in America. In Costa Rica, it's anywhere between 15. It's like 15 usually. 15 to 10 in parking lots, but it's about 15 around side streets.
Damn. Okay. It's brutal.
Yeah. You drive 15 miles an hour down the street, yeah, but it's like you got to worry about the safety of the people on the street now.
Yeah.
So there's a reason why these speed limits actually exist, because somebody went too fast and ran somebody over. There's a reason why speed limits in parking lots exist. It's meant to park and go through slowly, so you won't hit everybody walking through the parking lot. So therefore, you have to go slow, so you won't turn everybody into speed bumps.
I mean, it'd be entertaining to watch, but
yeah, but it's a whole entire legal thing that you have to worry about at the end of the day.
Right.
Yeah.
It's why they say they're 5. Sometimes it's 5 miles an hour. But for me, it's definitely 2 miles per hour slower. You know, it's 2 miles per hour slower, than the posted speed limit.
Yeah, but speaking to that liberal tinge to everything too, it's funny just when you see the cops over here, I'm where I am, it's they have to depend on these businesses, but they don't like spending time in them. They'd rather spend their time outside socializing amongst themselves, because the whole atmosphere is really off-putting. One, because what Tico said, they don't want to recognize that they're just too lazy, or they need that fix right there, right then and there. But also, it's also just I think what most people are fed up with is just like that liberal attitude where it's just like, oh, you're worried that you're gonna like offend somebody. So I would they'd rather just, you know, just go and hang out somewhere else and disassociate from that group. Which I don't know if that's the healthiest, the healthiest way of addressing it, but I don't know. I guess they just see the liberal atmosphere as like a lot of drama. But, yeah, I don't know. It's just yeah, that car situation sounds tough. I don't see how you would figure out a way to adapt to that, given that everything is so hell bent. Like if you can't use GPS or something, or if you can't call your delivery recipient, um, I feel like that would create a really huge problem for people who are
Yeah. Well,
transportation in
for me,
as a trade, or as a career.
for me personally, it's not that part isn't too bad because I don't really have a smartphone and I don't have any devices, so I'm generally all right in that sense. But the cycle law changes is a bit more annoying. You're meant to be like a like if you're overtaking a cyclist, in the past you could kind of straddle the middle of the road, but now you have to give a much more of a breathing space, like 1.5 meters. So pretty much if you're going to overtake a cyclist, you have to be on the complete wrong side of the road to do so. And you're meant to give way at junctions for them and pedestrians as well. So, and the thing is, it's causing confusion because, when you teach children or just in general practice, you're standing to cross the road, you typically wait till the car is gone. But now cars are meant to come to a screeching stop and allow you to cross. So if you're driving, not only do you have to look on the road, but you have to anticipate pedestrians wanting to cross it. And if you think they're going to cross it, you have to stop. Now there's basically a load of stalemates going on because people don't know who has priority now.
Yeah.
Hey, just all you gotta do is just sit back and watch with some popcorn. At this point, it's like because that basically affects commerce. If people can't move, if people can't drive freely because of the laws, well, guess what? Just sit there and it'll affect commerce. And now everybody's confused.
Yeah, everyone's confused. Yeah, I mean, there was a particular person who brought up a point where I didn't know this until this person brought it up, but they're talking about guide dogs, how they're trained to allow cars for the road to be completely empty before crossing or guiding their owner across the road. So if you've got a car that's stopped for the guide dog isn't going to suddenly now know, oh, well, it's safe. Let's cross the road. It's going to wait until the car has moved, but the car isn't going to move because it's waiting for the guide dog and the people, and the owner of the guide dog is saying, like, if you want to do us a favor, just move get going. Don't stop for us. Just carry on driving. Get out the way because our dog is trained for zero cars. Yeah. Now, if we start training dogs to walk out into the middle of the road willy-nilly, you can see how it's going to be causing a lot of accidents.
Oh yeah, just sit back, watch and watch the show. At this point, it's like sit back and watch the show.
I mean, true, but not unless everybody on the road is or if everybody on the road is like a animal lover, type never harm a fly type person, then it'll just create gridlock.
You would hate this, right? The way they structured it is they've created a hierarchy of vulnerability. So because people are the most vulnerable, they get zero responsibility and they're at the top of the ladder. And you work your way down. So the cyclists are the next ones who are the most vulnerable. so they get a tiny bit of responsibility, but practically none. Then you got cars, then you got buses, then you got lorries. And if you're a lorry driver, you're the most dangerous, apparent according to this hierarchy. You're the most dangerous on the road, so you're going to carry the most responsibility.
And they're not gonna. They don't see a problem with this. I mean, with no common sense.
No, that doesn't apply here anymore. No.
Exactly. Common sense need not apply. And
No.
that's why I say at this point, just observe and just watch the show. It's
Yeah.
now. It's
You
just now the show.
there are now and again you get like little hooligan type kids who are now learning this law and are like, oh, you mean I can stop traffic whenever I feel like it? So they're kind of just darting out into the road just to prank drivers. It's like, haha, I made you stop.
But karma comes back on them, you know.
When we get it, you want people to get into accidents. That's not the point.
No. I don't want people to get into the accidents. I just want I just want crap to be held up like a butt plug, you know, for these people to learn.
Right.
That's the only way.
Yeah, it does seem like a tricky situation because like at some point there's going to be a guy who won't admit or who's going to fight like against that hierarchy and say like, I don't care if you guys value that. I couldn't just stop. It's just like, how do you have any sort of agency when there's that thing looming over you, like they're gonna kill this innocent, no responsibility thing, in the eyes of the state. Whereas like in your eyes, you saw that you clearly had the right of way and they just decided to be a bad person and drive in front of you and walk in front of you, Or they're just like trying to be like rowdy or
This is gonna play hell with Teslas. Oh boy.
Yeah, auto drive and dog versus dog. Assisted.
Yeah, I need to get myself a dash cam. I'm worried about all these false insurance claims being made. You see, I've seen the videos where a car will be overtaking a bicycle with plenty of space, but the cyclist will throw themselves off their own bike and then be like, like as if they've been knocked off.
Oh man, shoot! I'll make an honest person out of them.
Yeah, unless you've got like dash cam footage, otherwise I don't know how you sort of contend against it.
Boot. But... Hey, look,
leave no witnesses.
Hey, look, at this point, it's like, oh, you want to play this crap? Okay, we can play this game. Like that. I mean, it ain't nothing but about a boot to the head. I mean, I'll get deported, and I'll probably spend some jail time, but at least you'll be honest.
Yeah.
I mean, that's ultimately what it's gonna have to be at this point. It's like, okay, so I may get some jail time, but at least you'll be an honest person.
Well, if they're gonna have such a hierarchy, then why does the punishment can't be you get thrown in the place where people made deliberate attempts to harm another person's life? But that'll never happen.
True.
That'll never happen.
Yeah, you just get like points and fines and.
Hey, look, I'm gonna take it like shit. People need to start taking them points out of people's behinds. But that's what it is. Is people need to start taking them points out of people's behinds. Now, I may be archaic. I may be pre-90, or I may be pre-90s, and archaic and barbaric. But guess what?
I know there's a video out there of a person doing their driving test, and they saw a pedestrian about to cross the road. I think the pedestrian even steps into the road, so the car stops. But this pedestrian, not really thinking about it, kind of waved the car on and instead of crossing in front of the car, went towards the back to cross behind the car, which is pretty, decent. Like, doesn't want to get in the way of the vehicle, and is still crossing, using some, some sensibility and going around the back of the vehicle. But because the car went to then now drive forward, the instructor felt like, well, you've now failed your test. You were meant to let this person cross in front of you. It's like, well, how can you make them cross in front of you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like it's scripted interaction or something like.
Yeah.
The way that it's supposed to be is person A crosses in front.
And that pedestrian has probably to this day no idea that their action of going around the back of the car ended up costing this person their driving. Well, they failed their driving test because of it.
What's next? A license to walk?
Maybe.
Yeah, that's a scary part.
Well, actually, they close sections of the road now during the days to allow people to walk in the road. So they're teaching
Or
people.
Maybe I see like gerrymandering. Maybe like all people who like to cross in front of cars willy nilly will live in one part of town, and then the other people will be the people who are afraid of crossing. Like, because everything reflects a point system, right? Like a social credit score. So you'll be placed in a place where people like crossing the road, pompously. Yeah.
We're looking to go into a cashless society. That's another.
Oh boy.
Forward to in the future.
And yeah, you'll earn points instead of earning currency. You'll be like, hey, you didn't, you let the car pass in front of you instead of behind you. You get 50. You're a good person points. And then if you let the car pass behind you, it's like you might not be able to have lunch that day because you didn't earn it.
That's kind of scary, actually.
Yeah. Hey. I don't know what to tell you. That's the way that. That's the way that.
It's kind of scary, actually. I was like, I don't know. Maybe it's because these people want this so badly. I look here. All I know is in Massachusetts they got clinics that help with people who basically are sick of life, And it ain't no thing for me to go up there and have a conversation with one of those clinicians, and I'm almost at that age where they won't ask questions.
Well, that's the one place where government can't be. They can be in your house, in between your mirrors. They can like enforce you to slap another person, but they can't be on the road with you driving. That's where you have to take personal accountability. So I think
it's called common sense.
Yeah, there's no amount of government that trumps common sense, flat out. Way too valuable.
Oh, well,
but people
common sense
people will still choose the easy way out, though.
I mean, common sense requires individualistic thinking or independent thinking.
Oh yeah, I forgot.
We can't have that.
We can't have that.
Yeah. I mean, people can't even eat a meal without feeling pain for all of the creature suffering. That they can't even physically see, or they'll never see.
I can't.
I mean, it's like
I look here. When I'm eating veal parmesan, I watch documentaries on the treatment of veal calves. That's the type of person I am. Like my favorite, like I said, veal parmesan. I will literally.
No. I mean, well, have you ever watched Bambi?
Yes.
Okay, then you are evil.
I will literally eat a venison steak while watching Bambi.
Okay.
I will eat a rabbit haunch while watching Bambi. I'm that type of person. Look,
does anybody in the chat challenge Win to that? Anybody in the chat? Think Win's bad person?
Look, I'm a product of my environment. I'm a product of my environment. You want me to feel? You want me to suffer? You want me to suffer for eating a creature? I will make sure that I enjoy it. I've, like I said, and as grown up, I watched Bambi as a kid, and you know what? I love venison. I love venison. I love rabbit meat. I will literally sit here and watch the treatment of a veal calf. I will eat a steak right after petting a cow, right after petting a bull or a steer.
Well, I want to thank people for staying this long. That was well past the time
Ooh,
period.
that's
But,
sharp. God dang, I cut myself with a straight razor. God dang, that's gonna hurt. It's gonna leave a mark. Oh, it's not that bad.
Thanks, Win, for stopping by, and Billy for carrying us through. Appreciate you guys. Thank you, Tico, for stopping by. Thank you,
and keeping us on topic.
Keeping us on topic and giving us extra topics too to talk about, which was great. But that was fun.
It's a pleasure.
I'm still trying to figure out which episode we're on, but I'll.
Like I said, treat yourself like milk. Treat yourself like milk. Do not but spoil yourself.
That too.
And
Billy, thanks for sticking around. Do you have anything any videos to promote while you're on here or no?
Not particularly. No, not really.
No, but I'll be uploading today as well, so you guys can stay on my channel if you guys want to see some more content. But yeah, that's gonna be it for Bleeding Edge. Thank you everyone for stopping by.
Yep.
And much blessings and well wishes to you all. I especially want to thank Totally Not Mega Man. He said that we're a bunch of Disneys, which I think is funny because of Billy the Goat has a Thanos picture.
And the fact is, I love watching Bambi while eating venison steak.
Yeah, and if you're gonna be a Disney, at least be a Disney with attitude. That's right.
Well, I do have that my little goat maid avatar. Remember that one?
Oh
yeah. We'll have to like get one where it's just like Mrs. Potato Head, and Wind is like a female cyclone, and you're like a female goat. Tico's like a female Thomas the Tank Engine.
I see where he is. Oh, look,
just like the matrilineal episode. That'll be like our 100th episode, as we all come as women and we like gossip and we talk shit.
501c status. Like I ever had one.
No, you're 1089 shit talkers or whatever.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
1099, I think it is. Like I'm a regular old taxpayer. I'm just a regular old fashioned taxpayer.
Shit talking.
I'm just don't mind me. Don't mind me. I work with a W-2.
It's crazy, right? How entrepreneurs are commenting in your comment box saying like, you're creating a bunch of constructs. Well, no, like
is it my comment?
Everybody who was like anti-drama, they all claim to have like this self-improvement, survivalistic, down to the very, what you talk about in your daily, the control level. They claim is higher, but then they're commenting in your comments to stop saying things that they don't like. Oh, Tico's back. Tico back in the house.
Hey, welcome back, Tico.
Welcome back. But yeah, we were just ending it, so I was gonna play the outro.
Yeah, I decided to.
You want answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
Perfections, ooh, Sin City, Montana. Montana coke boys. Ooh, we run the city. Homie tryna keep up. Ooh, they going broke. I'll finish your career. Ooh, get a rope.
Warning, 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 warning.
Dope money, dope money. Ooh,
That Montega,
in the spot getting dropped. Ooh,
that's hard labor.
in the club popping bottles.
Yeah, we blowing that sour.
Handful of real niggas.
Rest of these niggas cowards.
How you want it?
How you want it?
Hands gun or the knife.
Soon as your man see the barrel,
He gon' run for his life.
bullets flying.
Bullets flying.
Hasta luego.